you guys. I wasn't. So we'll see. We'll see.
Well, wait till we get to Nick because he called it correctly. Is the stock going to go up or down at the end of this call? So James is
Uh,
predicting yes. Brian, you normally do financial predictions, but I didn't see you actually have an earnings estimate this time around. This is the group of the retail analysts that we have. Matt is the highest, 46 cents per share. You got Troy at 42, Gary Black 39. I think the street is, do you guys know what the street is at 38, I think? Um, and then James is at 28 cents, quite low. Where are you, Brian? What happened to you this time?
No,
Traveling?
I never do the financial earnings because I've tried to model it in the past and I've never found a model that actually works. No matter how much I try it against past quarters, it always collapses. So it is not my area of expertise. I do production and deliveries. What I'm looking for this quarter is to see how stationary storage is going. I don't care if automotive is off. It doesn't matter to me. That's not the future of the wheeled vehicles that Tesla's going to be making. We're going to see autonomy. We're going to see semi with autonomy. We're going to see semis with autonomy that may not be for sale, but only for rent, because the autonomy is worth so much. It could easily be $1,000 a month, and it would be vastly cheaper than trying to hire truckers. So those things don't concern me. Stationary, I think, is more interesting to me because we've got Lathrop fully ramped now for a while. We've got Shanghai is, I'd say, fully ramped, but the deployments are not. Those are a lagging metric, and we're going to keep seeing those growing out from under it. And then, of course, into the end of this year, we may see some production coming out of Texas at the Megafactory 3. That I have a lot of questions about that. I'd like to know where they're planning to get the cells from and what they're going to end up costing. But I'm confident that they know what they're doing. I'm just waiting to see how much money we're going to get out of it.
Yeah, I'll ask everybody the question: is there any surprises that we're expecting? Isn't that's one, right? The potential megapack energy shocking us a little bit with revenue recognition, maybe. Um, this is the list that I just gave. Street consensus is at 39 cents. Matt Smith is at 46 cents. That's where he just sort of landed on. So this is a wide range from 28 cents to 46 cents, almost double a huge range. Jeff, what's your expectations? Is this going to be an important call?
Yeah, I think it is. I think they all are, but I agree with Brian's approach in terms of trying to predict quarterly earnings. The sources of revenue are actually growing for the company, and therefore, I think the variation in uh, trying to predict these earnings is just going to be more difficult. But I think what's happening is I think the company's literally changing right under our feet, and even this, some of us in this group, myself included, just find ourselves talking about things that will matter less. Now, as Alexander said, we still need a business to generate free cash flow. We still That's still very important. So it is important to understand what's happening in auto. Where are the newer vehicles? What's the timing of those? There's still importance in understanding that and what the company sees ahead for itself. But I think the whole thing is literally changing under our feet. And but if I were to talk about just this past quarter, if I were to just judge by the number of senior level departures, whether they were fired or are on their own accord, just the number of departures tells me that there were probably a number of things going on that just weren't that great in the quarter or the first half of the year tactically, and really where the company's actually going. So I'm glad to see Elon back in this mode. But getting back to this, I think where the company is going. First off, try to imagine projecting the growth of what's going to happen in Robotaxi. So what do we start off in June? Maybe a dozen vehicles, handful of rides, and of course, safety driver, all the different things that came with it. But that's how you launch a new safety critical system. Got it. But just start imagining, projecting. Okay, what's it going to look like in Q3? What's the service area, and the measurements of that service area, number of vehicles, number of rides. And this thing looks like, if you look at the pipeline in front of it, in terms of the number of cities they're talking to, where they're hiring people, it looks like they're building a fairly expansive pipeline ahead of this and to grow this fairly rapidly. So if you were to just take Robotaxi and autonomy and plot that growth, it looks like it's going to be it's going to be exponential. It's going to be growing I think at a fairly rapid pace. I know there's disagreement on that, but I think I think when you actually look at it over 4 to 6 quarters, that's going to be one story. But here's the other thing to think about. Hearing what's happening at XAI. You're hearing the 50 million H100 GPU equivalents over the next several years. Well, what's going to be needed to actually achieve that? You're going to need energy, and you're most likely going to need Dojo. So I'm not saying it happens this quarter in the guidance. Maybe it's next quarter in the guidance, but talk about forecasting, a year out in terms of this new version of Dojo ramping. I mean, what if Tesla puts this is a what if, but it's very likely, Tesla's not developing Dojo for their health. They're not developing it just to doodle around. They're developing it to have it be part of this solution. So just imagine a very large order, from XAI on the Tesla for Megapacks and for Dojo. Nobody's thinking about that. Nobody's talking about that. But if that guidance could occur, starting over the planning for these things from a fab capacity have to occur over a 12 to 18 month time frame. So you can start having that conversation now. So just think about that. Think about the growth in these areas. Think about plotting the growth of autonomy, robotaxi. Think about what this next release is going to look like from an FSD perspective. But I think the themes here are the growth of robotaxi and then the growth of their AI related businesses, both to power AI and to actually do the compute.
Jeff, you mentioned, so Dojo is now going to be a line item. It could be, right, very soon. What's your estimate of what are we talking about here? This business unit that's going to appear out of nowhere.
I think the street is going to want to get ahead of this. So it's not going to be big numbers in terms of the fab and shipments this year, but it could be bigger numbers starting next year and in 2027 for sure.
What are we talking about? Like $1 billion?
More than that. I mean, so I think this could be, again, it depends on the performance, their testing results, what they're seeing. So these are some of the key questions I think we'd want to understand. Because again, we've been talking about Dojo as this thing on the side. But now if you really start seeing what's happening, you see what OpenAI is doing, you see what everybody's doing in terms of scaling this compute. I think the numbers are a bit stunning to the street in terms of what they're starting to hear. And there's one company that's able to actually execute and bring these centers up at a rapid pace. So anyway, all that has to happen. And first you've got to put projections out there. And these things are, 12 to 18 months in the making or more just to get the fab and the assembly capacity online.
Okay. Larry, how are you feeling about this earnings call?
Yeah, I'm probably the most disinterested guy in this group about this particular earnings call. I'm much more interested. Sorry, let me rephrase that. About this quarter's earnings, I'm very interested in the earnings call. I'd like to hear from Elon his views on progress in all the major fronts, and those fronts are robotaxi, of course. Those fronts include, where we are with our Optimus and what his schedule is, and are we getting to a place where we can get a more precise idea of what those deliveries are going to be? I'm with Brian. I'm really interested in the energy deliveries. I would like to see energy deliveries spike by 20-25%. It was my expectation we would see an increase last quarter. This quarter, I would like to see a minimum of 20-25%. And I'd like to hear from Elon what we can expect from that. I think it seems that it's time to start talking about expectations on that front. I am very skeptical we will see anything from Dojo in the coming year. My understanding of Dojo is that we're currently testing version 2. We don't expect to be competitive until we get to version 3. Version 3 seems to me 2 years off from my guesstimates. So I think we're several years away from that. I think they're making steady progress from the way I interpret Elon's words, but I think it's a little ways off. So Robotaxi, Optimus, and then of course we'd like to hear a little bit more about when we're going to see some of the newer models. We do see that the extended or the lengthened version of the Model Y is pretty exciting. I think it's getting a lot of excitement in China. I think it's a ideal vehicle for our roads here. So be interested to understand the plans. I know they don't talk product plans in this call, but I'd like to get an indication, since he's already given us an indication on, the so-called lower cost vehicles. I think it's time to get a little bit more material about those. So that's what I'm looking for from the call. From earnings, I think it will be fortunate to break 40. I no longer actually try and estimate that, but I think we'll be fortunate to break 40. I think the street may be closer this time to what they normally are. It could be as high as 42. It could be as low as 35. We'll get a little bump in not earnings, but additional growth in I think non-financial assets. So it'll be obviously their cyber investments. That's about it. I don't understand the share price breaking out unless there is some really important news that Elon delivers. So again, this call, like the last several calls, is all about the Elon that shows up. That's what I think that's what it turns on.
Great list, Larry. Appreciate that. So Nick, get you in a conversation. You and I were hoping that Tesla's going to expand the Robotaxi before the earnings call. That didn't happen. And then last time you called correctly what would happen to the stock. You were against the grain because everybody was saying the opposite, but you were called right. What's your call this time?
I don't actually have a call this time, and everyone gets lucky every once in a while, right? Right now, the only thing I know is that it's 50-50 with an estimated 6.5% move after the earnings. I will not concede yet, Herbert. They still might expand it before the earnings call. We've got hours on our hand here.
Sure.
So we never know. It could still happen. But I'm aligned with a lot of what's been said. I've been saying this to you every Wednesday you and Brian every Wednesday for I don't know how long now. I don't care about the deliveries. I don't care about the earnings. I just care about the progress on technology. And to me, this is a monumental earnings call, because this will be the first time we go into an earnings call and nobody can walk out of there and say that Elon is the boy who cried wolf. Nope. Robotaxi is deployed, it's launched, and we can, for the first time, actually listen to what he's going to say. And now it's about the iteration of it, not will it or won't it happen. And so I think it's going to be a very profound call. What's the stock going to do? Who knows? It's either going to go to 250 or either to 350 or to 310 based on the options markets. But right now, all I care about is what's the future, what's next. What can we learn about how it's going, the expansion, what's up with the safety riders, what type of noise to signal ratio are they seeing as they've done this initial expansion? What's the climate look like right now? I mean, Sawyer just posted something about Nevada and Tesla speaking to them about rolling out robotaxis there. How is it going in Arizona, California? He said things seem promising, seems like they're being reasonable. So anything to share on that. And then I think the biggest risk to this call, other than, assuming Elon comes in pissed or upset, which I don't think will happen. I think the only risk is if they say something along the sorts of, we've bailed on the more affordable vehicle and we are just going all in with a cybercab. I don't think that's going to happen. I think it's a low odds, but never say never, especially after you read that Walter Isaacson biography. So
I don't think so, Nick. But I also want to point out this is a very interesting call in terms of timing. You know, we're waiting for this new compensation package from Elon that we'll discover middle of September in the new proxy. So this call today, July 23rd. The next call is going to be October 20 something. So about 2 weeks before the shareholder meeting. So today's call will really influence the first 4 to 5 weeks of voting, because after the next call, there are only 2 weeks left until the shareholder meeting. So I do believe Elon will be in a very upbeat mood, because he's also fighting for this compensation package. He wants to make sure he gets the votes. We heard last week on your show, Herbert, from Dan Ives saying that he thinks 70% of institutions are today ready to enter into Tesla stock. They are not yet there. This number is highly up from a 30% to a 70% number. And I do believe this earning call today is important for that one. He is fighting to get votes in that are positive on the tech future and the AI future of Tesla. And I'm certain, I mean, I would have dressed in green if I wasn't, that this is going to be a very upbeat call. And I may be wrong, always am, but I do expect quite a lot today.
That's an excellent point, Alexander, an excellent angle. I just want to circle back into some of the things that were said that are very important. First of all, as Jeff rightly pointed out, the ground, or I can't remember the exact words he used, the ground is shifting beneath our feet. And it's almost comical. We're doing these quarterly earnings calls when the very concept of a car is on the verge of obsolescence. And they're still talking about Model 2s. And none of that really matters as far as I'm concerned. The real story isn't 38 cents or 46 cents. That's, as soon as that was released, it's forgotten within 60 seconds. It doesn't matter. It's irrelevant. This is the rise of the Robotaxi. This is the scaling of Dojo. This is Optimus delivering food next year, which Elon said at the Tesla Cafe, whatever it's called. And that's the future. And by the way, the Dojo line item thing as well. We know the insatiable demand for Elon and Musk Industries for chips. I believe they'll be dog fooding all of their own chips. They'll be buying them themselves or sharing them themselves or whatever business transfer model there is for that. I'd be interested in what the panel thinks about that. And again, Model 2, who cares? Cybercab ramp matters. When are they going to start putting that thing on the streets? And Herbert, as you said with Joe, when do we get to 3 cities? That is the magical moment when Wall Street will come in droves, and they do have billions to drop. And the TI I showed at the very beginning shows constant accumulation. So the Wall Street institutions are nibbling right now. And final point that people need to remember, the megapack business is huge. That alone is worth $1 trillion. And we are seeing the biggest build out of anything since railways in the 1800s in the United States with AI data centers. And everybody knows if they want to even get close to doing what Elon does, they need megapacks to smoothen that electricity. Just my 2 cents.
Let me ask that question, because the most important thing, right, we all agree, is no longer auto. I love that, James, is exactly correct. And this is all about auto right now. In fact, one of the top questions in Say is about the affordable models. We are now a Robotaxi company. That's happening. When is a forcing function of when stock must rise because of Robotaxi? I asked this question to Stock Talk. He said when Tesla hits 3 cities. Reason is that he thinks that once you have 3 cities, it proves that Robotaxi is capable of multiple different environments. If it can do 3, it can do all. And so they think that that's it. Joe Bakhti said, no, it's 2,000 Robotaxis. And the reason why he chose that number is that 2,000 is 5 to 10% of the cash flow. And so then it becomes significant enough that every analyst has to line item it, and then they can see the growth. What does the panel here think? What is your forcing function? At what point is Robotaxi no longer? I mean, if the stock price is at 300 right now, 3 something, Robotaxi is part of it for sure, but it's not the bulk of it yet. What do you guys think? Who wants to jump in?
I will first. I think 3 cities with 100 cars in each is enough. And that will show the disruption. We've seen what Waymo did to Lyft in San Francisco, where I am. That's all we need. After that, the concept is proven. Multiple cities, a couple of hundred cars. We don't need 2,000.
Who wants to go next?
I'm going to agree with all that. You don't need to have a cajillion of anything to show disruption. One light bulb was all Thomas Edison needed to convince investors and journalists that it was a real thing. Mind you, it was the same light bulb. It was 10 different light bulbs, but the same principle applies. Either it works or it doesn't. We now have evidence that it works, but it being in one city is more of a demonstration than a real rollout of any sort. Once you're in 3 cities with a couple hundred cars each, you can actually show that it does scale, that it does work. And then the question becomes, how quickly can we get to 10-to-1 supervision, 100-to-1, 1,000-to-1? And that's going to be a whole other challenge. Getting it to genuinely unsupervised, where you don't need anyone at the other end of the connection, is going to be a much bigger challenge. But it doesn't have to be solved today for this to become absolutely huge in terms of revenue. It doesn't have to be cheaper than Uber. If it's the exact same price but no tip, it's already significantly cheaper. So I think, yeah, those numbers work for me.
I just want to jump in here that it's 3 minutes to 1 o'clock. At that time, we should have the financials. Tesla financials will drop that. We'll open it up as soon as it arrives. Anybody here want to answer the question?
Yeah, I'll jump in. I don't think it's going to be a moment or one thing that happens. I think
your audio sounds a little weird.
Okay.
Real hot.
Too hot?
Yeah.
Still bad?
A little bit.
All right. I'll disconnect it.
It's going through your AirPods, maybe.
Mm-hmm. Anybody else want to answer it while he's fixed? Or
I just really quick, I think it's going to be a percent or many X growth story. And I think it's going to be easy for them to tell this story once they get a couple of cities going, just because of the sheer numbers and the sheer growth. I think that, and the distance or time between those periods of growth are going to be, the frequency is going to be much greater and it's going to be much tighter. I think that's the story they're going to be able to tell on Robotaxi is much more rapid growth.
I think we have the numbers. Herbert, I'm going to cut out for a while and read it quietly and come back, okay?
Yeah. What do you mean you got the numbers? Somebody already?
Jack, I don't see it.
There's somebody who just said in the comments the PDF is out.
No, Market's not even closed yet.
Yeah.
That would be bad.
That would be illegal. Then again,
imagine the call option and put option action in 2 minutes. It'd be crazy.
Yeah, it's not out. It's
James
not
exits
out.
the call.
They're making an error. They saw the same line. They saw the press release on the same line as July 23. I think they just made a mistake. So I think the magic moment is not going to be any of the ones mentioned to date. I think it's going to be when the safety driver gets taken out of the car. I think once the safety driver is out of the car, I think all the rest just fall away. I think it'll become very clear the opportunity for the rate of expansion to become, very rapid. So I think that's what we look for. And as far as, supervision one-on-one, we don't know that currently supervision is one-on-one. We really don't know that. We're assuming that. I don't think it is. I think we have a couple of people watching multiple screens. But I think that we'll not ever see the rate of supervision from the operations room. We'll simply see the safety driver be removed from the car. I think that's the magic moment.
I want to go back to Herbert. I know we're going to get earnings probably in a few minutes, and if it does, just cut me off. But just really quickly back to the Dojo conversation. Dojo 1, there's 2, and there's 3. Per Tesla public statements, they're already handling about 8% of their training using their current Dojo chips and setup. So I think that's going to scale as a gradient. I don't think it's a zero on Dojo. I think they're going to scale that up to some greater number. Maybe it's 20 or 25% of the training load. We'll see, because obviously the size of these data centers are also becoming much, much, much bigger. But I think that is going to grow, and I think that is going to become a story. And maybe Dojo 3 is the magic moment where it becomes basically unconstrained. But the point is I think they're going to be able to tell a story here on growth. I think there's going to be a fairly big order put on. And again, if it's handling 8% of the training now, what if that grows to 15 or 20%? That's not insignificant. So anyway, I think there's something. I don't know if we hear about that on this call, but I think it's something that could play out over the next 6 to 9 months.
Is my mic
Think
still
about
hot?
it. Sorry, one
Go
thing.
ahead.
I'm sorry, Nicholas. Tesla becomes a chip supplier there. That point. First off, they ship physical real world AI devices, Robotaxi network, and now they're an AI. They're certified AI chip supplier, training side and inference side. I think it's a fairly big deal, and it's probably not being talked about a lot. Sorry.
No worries. Can I just get a mic check, Herbert?
Go ahead. Your turn.
Okay. All right.
Better.
Mic check.
You guys don't know, but Herbert yells at me on Wednesdays.
Yeah.
And then Brian calms me down after. Yeah. So I just want to. Well, let's just continue with the Dojo conversation. Dojo 2, Dojo 3, no matter what, it doesn't have to be on parity with NVIDIA H100s, H200s,
Correct.
or whatever other iteration comes out, because it also comes down to a cost analysis, right? And Dojo is also specifically being designed for a very specific problem statement, which is video training. Whereas NVIDIA has to be the, inch deep, mile wide for all the use cases. Now, there's a lot of NVIDIA GPUs out there. You got the A100s, you got obviously all the H, we got the B versions are coming out, but they're still more or less pretty generic. And so Dojo could have a strength in certain aspects that the NVIDIA chips don't. I know more about the NVIDIA world because it's very public and it's a lot in my ecosystem, but Dojo is kind of a black box in many ways. So it's really hard to do a true apples to apples in that. But if it's even half as performant just on video training than NVIDIA chips, and it costs 10% of what NVIDIA does, the economics could make sense. So there is an argument to be made on that front. But
yeah,
I want to kind of fast forward again, and Herbert, if it comes out, interrupt me, but I think we probably still have another 10 minutes. With regards to when we start seeing the stock move I'm kind of aligned with what everyone said, but I think it kind of comes in phases. I think it's not a silver bullet or a binary. I think it's like Larry said, driver comes out, we expand in a geofence area bigger than what Waymo is in Austin. Oh, San Fran comes on. Then people can say, oh, well, of course, they're in San Fran, Austin. They've been training there forever. Oh, NVIDIA comes, or Nevada comes online. Arizona, they haven't been there forever, right? So I think it's just like a confluence of 1,000 cuts that lead us, 1% here, 1% there, 2% there. And I think that's what will happen before we actually see the revenue on the income statement. The people who get in once it starts showing up on the balance sheet, that's the Warren Buffetts that buy Apple after it's already gone up so much. Right. I think there's a lot of movement to happen prior to that.
Yeah, it's going to go in stages. I think you're right. I think there's going to be a moment when we suddenly realize the revenue burst and the earnings burst, pretty much like we saw in 2019 with that, third quarter explosion. I think we're going to get a similar moment. So we're going to see, significant rises with these various milestones.
Stock's just gone up $1. We don't know why.
Real
time. Sorry.
It's because Google just came out.
Yeah, it's probably on its way.
Yeah, Google.
Yeah, there's two websites that I'm checking that will drop the PDF as soon as it does. We'll download it. We'll look at it. We're expecting the Tesla financials to drop any second now, maybe every minute, any minute. And then we'll review that. And then an hour and a half, that's when the official Tesla event will happen. We'll stream that live here. We're co-streaming it in multiple channels, including the X accounts, so we can stay wherever you're at.
So this is interesting. Google hired 5% people over the last year, where you see companies like Microsoft cutting drastically. Interesting.
Well, whatever you do, stay here, hit the thumbs up, and we'll keep you informed.
So who else here thinks the stock would go up or go down after the earnings call?
I say up.
So two people say up, James and Nick. Anybody else?
We get prize at the end, right? Whoever's right.
You get the stock going up. That's the prize.
100 tokenized shares.
I really do think that we may see softness, but I feel like it, like Herbert had said at the top of the show, is baked in. I feel like there's we've seen deliveries were a miss and stock went up. So the market isn't always rational, and I think there's a lot of fear baked into the trading.
One other item too
so.
is the expectations are so low right now within TardFi, Wall Street, that the only way is up. So where they like any surprise on margin or whatever else, and I think there will be a margin surprise to the upside too. That will make Wall Street happy, and that'll make the stock pop, I believe.
Is there anything that you guys think could be a surprise? Alexander, did you think it's unlikely they're going to talk about his comp plan or XAI?
They're not allowed to talk about anything that's going to come up in the proxy. So that's, I mean, they would even, if there's a question, not that an analyst would ask that, but if there would be a question from an analyst, they would say they cannot comment at the moment on that.
Any surprises then? That they might.
Well,
have
it's a surprise, right? If we know it now, it won't be a surprise anymore.
You guys can guess on what might be a surprise.
I mean, he may announce, cities that are close to approval, or even, where
it feels like it feels like he's already said so on X. This California is almost about to be approved, right? It feels like it's already being.
Yeah, Nevada will be a slam dunk because they want to be like Texas. So I expect that'll be easy to get approved. And then Arizona, similar, maybe a little more resistance. And then California will be big. They can't really deny it. And even Elon was surprised about how receptive they were. So
it's usually just 3 minutes afterwards, right? This is a little late, 10 minutes after.
No, normally it's like 4:15.
Oh, okay. So maybe another 5 more minutes. Yeah.
They're pretty much always at the same time. Like it's pretty much automated. Like Google's always right at 4:05, like clockwork.
Yeah, I would want to hit up Jeff regarding Dojo. People talking about that being a line item. Won't they be just using all those chips for themselves or for Musk Industries?
No, I think I mean, they could be selling them, but it could be selling them to XAI. So it could be used for Tesla. They could be used at XAI. XAI is turning into now the number one consumer of GPUs. I think at a rate and velocity, they probably are. Maybe there's other entities that may have more total installations. I don't know. We'll have to see what some of the stats look like, but they're turning into the number one consumer of it. So I think it's a big deal. And yeah, it's going to be inside of Musk Industries. But I just think that Tesla's not known as an AI GPU infrastructure company. They're just not. Most people don't know that even in the car, the inference compute is all, those are Tesla chips fabbed at TSMC. People don't know that. I bet you if you polled, more than 50 or 60% of the analysts think that there's NVIDIA inside of Tesla today. So just to give you an idea of, I think it's going to be very eye-opening that a large percentage of Tesla's training and compute and XAI, if it's going to undergo this conversion and they're going to have to put orders on Tesla for chips, I think Tesla is going to be looked at as a completely different company.
That's actually
Something
a
like
good
that.
point. I was thinking about this weekend, and I wanted to discuss this with you. I think we should push the
Tesla's
people
out.
that make. Well, there you go. I'll tell you later what I think we should push for. But anyway, here we are. Let's download it all and then discuss it. See you all soon. Okay.
33 cents.
Thanks, Alexander.
33. So James Stevenson was pretty darn close. But
It's a
about in the
mess.
middle between James Stevenson and the market. I mean, James was closer by a penny.
Stock shot up $5 for a second there, so it's weird.
Started builds of one of the more affordable models in June. Started production.
Whoa, Wall Street will love that because it's a car company.
Sorry, Jeff, what was that?
He
Said
said
they started including the first builds of a more affordable model in June with volume production planned for the second half of
Whoa.
2025. So that's probably the start of production.
Guys, operating cash flow of $2.5 billion.
Mm-hmm.
Free cash flow of $0.1 billion. That's amazing. That's truly amazing.
Okay, where should we go on this first? Should we go to the what we normally do? Jump to the outlook.
Delivered first mega packs from Mega Factory Shanghai.
I don't see anything interesting in the outlook.
Can also read it out loud a bit for those with smaller screens.
Plans for new vehicles that will launch in 2025 remain on track, including initial production of a more affordable model in first half of 2025. What? Okay. Did you see that?
Yeah, they started
It's,
producing them. That's the point.
Okay, including initial production. So what it has already been produced, starting to be produced now.
That's why I just said it started in
That's
June.
what he said. Okay, Cybercab will continue to pursue it. Okay, everything's just on track so far. That's what it says. So let's go back to the beginning. So go ahead, Larry. What are you finding here?
Storage deployed is down 9.6. Well, it's up quarter over quarter, but
Cash flow 2.5 billion. That's good, right?
Yeah.
It's good.
Yeah, I said that already. Yeah.
And then, sorry, what was the earnings?
Deployments on Megapack will be lumpy. So if it's down, that doesn't mean to me that it's actually any sort of trend. It's just lumpy.
Correct.
All right.
Q2 2025 was. Go ahead.
They said a key word here. They are framing Q2 2025 as that seminal point.
Yeah.
They talk about Robotaxi launching, but it's just a test. But the FSD expansion is happening globally: Paris, London, Sydney, and Rome, which is big. And we're not even mentioning Norway and the Netherlands as well. So other places too. Talks about the core tech build out. They added another 16,000 H200s on top of their 67,000 H100s.
Revenue decreased 12% to 22.5. Vehicle deliveries.
That's compared to last year's quarter, yes.
Mm-hmm. Year of year, yeah. Operating income decreased 42% to 0.9 billion. So numbers went down, right?
Mm-hmm.
Quarter end cash is 36 billion. Pretty healthy.
Record TTM deployments for Megapacks and Powerwalls. Energy grew 846 million. With the first deployments from Shanghai too. So Shanghai is alive and well, as we knew.
Yeah, second quarter cash flow is higher than the first quarter. Gross cash collections were 2.54.
We can read this. I think this is important here. Our efforts to refine the Robotaxi offering in Austin are not location specific. That's important. And will allow us to scale to other cities quickly with marginal investment. That's important. Everybody thought that what they're doing in Austin was, making it very specific to Austin, and they need to replicate that for each cities. That's not what they're saying here. 16,000 H200 GPUs at Gigafactory Texas. Cortex is now at 67,000. I think that's what's expected. FSD miles is now at 4.5 billion.
I can't drive any other way anymore. I just did 6.5 hours yesterday, another 6.5 today, and I feel great because I didn't do the driving. I just kind of hung out and kept my eyes on the road. It works. It just works. There are places where you have to pay more attention than others, and this is on the 13 build that we got last year. We know that there's a build that they've been working on in Austin that we haven't been able to drive yet. Dave Lee made a post yesterday or the day before saying, you guys don't understand how big the jump is going to be between the version we have in our hands today and the version that is on the Robotaxi. It is much smoother. It is much more natural, which I didn't think was possible, but I believe him when he says that's what it was. And Herbert, you've got experience with that as well.
And they also did say they're sacrificing short-term margins and deliveries to position itself for the next industrial epoch, which is everything AI-driven, everything software, and that will eclipse the hardware profits. The software revenue will soon eclipse the hardware profits, which I think is interesting. They're not comparing profit to profit, they're comparing revenue to profit, which is interesting because the margin is going to be so different as well. And the big focus, of course, FSD, energy, robotaxis, and then humanoid.
What do you guys think about the free cash flow falling? At least it's not negative.
Yeah, that's the sacrifice they made. They're steady at like 37 billion in cash, which is a truckload, and hopefully they put 10 of that into XAI soon.
Yeah, I think we were expecting free cash flow to go negative, and it didn't.
Yeah, we did. That's exactly right. The actual total cash flow was higher this quarter than last quarter. This second quarter than first quarter. It's just the net dropped because they obviously spent more on capital equipment, but actually the cash flow from operations rose. That's a very interesting factor given the actual the actual revenue is higher too. So
I expect, with all that retooling that they were doing in Q1, I would expect that. I actually think it's going to be, they're going to do some more retooling, obviously, for these lower cost vehicles and expanding the lineup, but it's not going to be like taking down 2/3 of your production and trying to bring it up again in a quarter. That kills cash, kills a number of different line items. So actually quite encouraged by what could happen in the second half.
Yeah, I think that tooling must be done though, Jeff, because they're in production, right?
Correct.
So that tooling now starts being written off against production.
Correct.
But up to now, it's just been cash flow. It's very interesting, very exciting, actually.
Yeah.
One thing I'd want to ask is what is going to be the next, they're definitely doomed scenario that the fear, uncertainty, and doubt mongers will try to spread? Is it that because they said, well, the sales are going to be down. Well, now it's the cash flow is going to be down. You'll see they're spending too much. And I don't think they are. The cash flow's still there.
The big negative is going to be the regulatory credits. This is probably the last quarter that we'll see significant regulatory credits. Going to drop by half next quarter and then to zero the following. Well, not to zero, maybe to a quarter.
It's only a 20% haircut. Isn't that right, Jeff?
Yeah, it's going to step down. 40 estimates are 45% of credits come from outside of the US. And remember, there's a lot of capitulation out there, even with Western European. Sorry?
That estimate cannot be correct.
Why not?
Because European sales are not equal to US regulatory credits.
It's not just Europe. It's not just Europe. It's Canada. It's not just Europe.
Tesla. Look, Canada and Europe combined are a drop in the bucket compared to China and the US. So it can't be 50%. It's got to be a higher percentage. I'm sorry. I mean, I may be wrong, but if
I didn't
look
say it's 50%. I said it's estimates of 40 to 45% come from outside of the U.S. Could be. I mean, it could be 35, could be 38, it could be 43. It's not zero. These people that are projecting regulatory credits to go to zero are not doing their homework.
I think it's the low 30s. That's my guesstimate.
Okay. Well, there's been some folks that have done some analysis of it, including Troy, who thinks it's on the order of 40 to 45%. I'll look up some other stuff too, but yeah. I mean, who knows? That could change.
Well, it dropped by about 20% this quarter.
I don't think so. It's 435 million, right?
600 to 439 on higher sales. So it was 890 million Q2 of 2024, 439 this quarter. So that's literally half of Q2 of 2024. Q1 of 2025 was 600 compared to 440. So it's dropped by almost 30%. So I think Troy's wrong.
You really got to be able to get into that system and understand the latency, everything that's involved in it. It's not a quick conversation, I don't think. Okay.
So what do you guys think? The big story here is that the more affordable vehicles are on track. And the production of both Cybercab and the more affordable vehicles is already starting to happen. And then, of course, the expansion of Robotaxi, but we haven't really... What else did you guys read here that you thought were really important?
I think reading between the lines, they talk about the next industrial epoch. Yeah. And they are sacrificing short-term to go all in on AI and autonomy. That is the message.
Where did you read that? Yeah.
Just reading just all the different pieces. It's not explicitly stated, but basically, just looking through, they're basically saying, well, we're doing this and this and this, and this is where we believe the ball is going, and that's their clear bet. That's 6 or 7 different sentences.
Yeah.
They also talk about the strength of energy and energy storage being
another huge energy. Spot. I think energy is one of the 3 big lines. So after reading it quietly, I have 3 points. 1, production started. And Larry, remember the last Cyberballs last week when you were telling me they could have not, where would they hide them? Well, you see they are hiding them. And even if Joe Techmeyer doesn't see them, they are there. Or maybe Joe saw them, but is not talking about it. Yeah. The second point for me clearly is that energy, which is the picks and shovels of all this AI business, is making immense progress, deployable 4 times quicker than anything else, and that's what's now needed. And Tesla is just uniquely positioned for this whole energy game. And the third one is free cash flow. I mean, I call this financial engineering. They could have also shown a negative free cash flow, and they obviously wanted to land just above 0, and they did. Which you can. I mean, you slow down a little bit your Capex or whatever, and that's how you get to these numbers. It's not as if these numbers are just randomly coming up on June 30th. So they did engineer this to be still slightly positive, which is sort of a relief. Well, it's 146 if I recall it right. I just looked at the free cash flow numbers. Exactly. You see that little red dot. You see exactly. It's tiny. And it is what I call financial engineering, meaning you manufacture a result because you, in consequence, spend a little bit less on Capex or whatever else, and that's how you get there. And they did it, which is fair enough. So this is, it's a bit of I wouldn't call it a stomach ache, but you wish that it would be easier, but that is just the way it is. This shows this is just a heavy growth company. Go ahead, Larry.
Just a point on that. Their free cash flow may have been engineered, but their actual Capex rose quite dramatically from first quarter and was, not
To
as
nearly
high as the
3.
third. Yeah,
Do
not
we
as
have
high
a table
as,
on Capex? Where's the
Yeah,
table
not
on
as
Yes, you do.
Capex?
it's on
You do.
page.
Where is it?
Yeah, it's towards the
You
end.
see the
Rick.
numbers. You see
It's-
capital
it-
expenditure
it's the
on
last-
page
it's the
4.
very-
On page 4, the third line.
Yeah,
It's
just
Capex here, up here.
right,
now
I'm
what you
on
want
my-
to go is reconciliation. Yeah, you want to go to the I suppose that'll be okay. But I'm looking at this second last page, the page just before the statements, and if you look at their capex, it's not at inordinately high levels, but it's higher than almost every other quarter before it, except for Q4 of 2024 and Q3 of 2024.
Yeah.
So it's at a pretty healthy
You're
level.
looking. Are you looking at the 2.394 number?
Yes.
Which is so. This is the
Right
fourth slide, Herbert. Just after the cover page, whatever. It's the third line on the bottom. You see, it went from 2.27 to 3.5, down to 2.7. Last quarter, only a little bit less than 1.5, and now up again to 2.39.
I see.
Yeah.
Okay, right here.
And you see,
So-
that's how it works. You have the net cash, that's 2.5 million. You know where you want to get to on your fresh cash flow, and that's how you adjust them. Those
I
are
mean,
the
what does that tell you? That means that they want to spend as much as they can on Capex, but then go, okay, we can't go negative.
It's a tango. It's a tango dance.
And in fact, per Larry, he was actually kind of correct. The regulatory credits did drop 51% year over year, from 890 million down to 439 billion. That's nearly over nearly $500 million gone, and that is high margin revenue taken from the books. That is probably the big kicker here. Also, the mix of vehicles, less expensive ones like Cybertruck S and X, and more cheaper ones, which impacted margins just down slightly. Gross margins 18%, now 17.2%. So that's the stuff that Wall Street's obsessed with.
I know,
it's
but
pretty-
I mean, aren't they
it's pretty
crazy?
good. Yeah.
Exactly. I agree with you. Aren't they crazy? When we had high ZEV credits, they were like, oh, let's ignore them. That's not real revenue. Let's ignore them. Now that they're going down, it's like, oh my God, the catastrophe, where is it going? And I mean, Alex Potter did a very good study on it, saying they're not going to completely disappear. There will still be about 3 billion? Yeah, 3 billion trillion.
300 billion.
Yeah.
Piper
because
Sandler.
they're gonna Piper Sandler, yeah, Alex Potter. But I mean, whatever it is, that is what CFOs do. They see how much comes in. That is a number that you have to adjust with and you have to live with, and then you manage the others. I think this is finely managed. I'm no way disappointed or whatsoever. It's a fine line, but it also is an argument for Larry, who says if we can do a stock deal with XAI, exchange stock from Tesla against stock with XAI, that'll be much better than spend money. I mean, we really don't have enough money. 36 billion is great, but it's not as if we can just throw it out. So the least we spend on XAI by getting the best out of it, better we're off.
Yeah. I wanted to, one of my followers, I want to credit him, Jeff Pogarty. Look at page 12 of the earnings deck, the picture, and look at the car in white near the bottom. Why is there only one car in white?
Ta-da! That's what they've
And
built.
if you
See Herbert.
What?
look at the slope, of the roof, and then look how it drops off in the back.
I
do you mean,
posted
what?
this, and and
You-
people are going, "You're reading too much
You
into
told
it.
me you
That's just a Prius."
You didn't believe me anymore.
So what are you saying, Jeff? What are you saying?
I know what you're saying.
They're making a compact version of the Y, probably,
Yeah.
and that's it.
Beside the Y.
It looks
The
just
one
like a
thing-
Prius, though, Jeff. Because look, take a look at this. See that little antenna at the back?
And the door handles.
But the front doesn't look the same. The front and the light.
It's
don't
got
look
a
the same.
grill.
Exactly.
Well, and the door
Well,
handles are not
it's-
Tesla door handles.
Because you see
They're
that you
old
see
school.
the Y, you see the Y next to it. The Y has a different, more angular front, and no.
Yeah, maybe
grill.
it's not. Maybe it is showing off the the Tesla charging network and deal with multiple vendors. I don't know. I still think they're doing. I still think they're doing.
Look, guys, there's a
smaller
dog here.
version of
Maybe
the
Tesla's going to start selling pets.
That's how we do it.
Drones disguised in pets.
Well,
That's a nice idea.
As somebody
you're not
who's
seeing,
expecting, I was looking at the stroller. So
yeah, I was going to make
Drones disguised as strollers.
I'm missing the whole point. The stroller is the point of the picture.
thank you.
Yeah,
Wow.
there's just a drone that took this photo, and it's not on the camera, but the drone is, Tesla's going to get to the drone business.
It's so obvious. It was
Now
right
I
there
think
all
you're
along.
reaching a bit, but then making a smaller vehicle, I think, is on the horizon.
Yeah, for sure.
Herbert,
Well, I think there's a lot of
yeah.
debate on that.
I think the most impactful thing in this entire slide deck is the comment about what they're doing in Austin is not Austin specific, but it's going
Yes.
to allow them to scale in other places with less investment.
Yes.
Those are very carefully worded words. It's
Okay,
very
where is it
specifically
now?
chosen.
Yeah. That's,
You pointed out earlier.
yeah, I did. Yeah, here it is, I think. Yeah, right here.
Yeah. The Robotaxi offering in Austin are not location specific and will allow us to scale in other cities quickly with marginal investments. I think, especially after the
Yes.
last earnings call where they talked
Yes.
about potentially having to have city specific models or geo, they said some things that were a little concerning,
Said-
but this, go ahead.
Nick, they said Austin would be geofence. That's all they said about geofencing. They said Austin would be geofence, and that was why the assumption came that we're going to have a geofence situation.
And we're also seeing the validation vehicles everywhere. So everybody kept saying, well, see, now they have to do what LiDAR does. They have to validate every single street. That's not necessarily important.
It's definitely not important.
But with the marginal investment too, that makes me think that when they do expand, they may need to, I'm sure for a little bit in these next few cities, they'll want to have, not have to, but want to have someone in the passenger seat.
Absolutely.
I mean, let's be honest. If someone's in the passenger seat, they're not actually doing anything too critically safety related there. Like, sure, maybe on the very fringe of margins, on the very end of the standard deviation curve, but still, I think what that's saying is that as they get through these initial cities and they see the stuff that they did in Austin, does that allow them to in a quicker fashion remove someone from the passenger seat? These are the things, the stepping stones that are going to allow them to all of a sudden go to Raleigh and to Andover, Massachusetts, and to Tampa, Florida, right? It allows them to open it up without having to have investment of hiring people, et cetera. So to me, that was just I think that's the most important line in this.
I agree with that. And I think that they'll be able to remove the driver, that they'll have the drivers in the passenger in the passenger seat for some time to come. But when they remove it, they'll remove it from pretty much all of the sites at the same time. And I think that
Jeff, this paragraph here on batteries, and it says here, our lithium refining and cathode production plants remain on track to begin production 2025, onshoring production of critical battery materials to the U.S. And then it says, we are on course to begin domestic production of our first LFP cells for our energy storage products later this year.
Yeah, that's assembly. I mean, the interesting question, if you're putting your operational hat on, is are you able to connect supply and demand, or did you run out? Were you able to do an inventory pull forward before these 50 and 60% tariffs are going on battery cells and kind of what everything's settling in at with China? And then I talked about the graphite material. I'm sure they've known about that for a year, and they've been pulling in inventory quarterly for that. But again, kind of, if you're asking the question is, are you going to be able to, are these trains going to connect where you're going to get enough U.S. sourced graphite that's battery grade? Are these trains going to connect where you ramp down China LFP assembly and you ramp up U.S. LFP assembly, and you're going to be able to connect all these for your energy business? I think that would be great to know.
Well, worth noting that the LFP in Nevada is only 10 gigawatt hours, where Fremont or Lathrop is already consuming 40 gigawatt hours. Then you've got Texas coming online as well. It's just not enough supply. And the LFPs being made in Nevada are not, they're for stationary storage, which has different technical specs than for automotive, which would need to be more robust, more durable. So I don't know. I don't know what they're going to do about batteries in the medium term.
There are two very large battery factories that are coming online now. Not non-Tesla battery factories, but commitments to Tesla for supply. By the way, the stock just dropped below closing, not quite below closing price, but it did drop quite significantly.
Why do you think it did that, guys?
Margins, drop in margins, and free cash flow just at break even, and drop in regulatory credits. These are things that Wall Street doesn't like. They don't look forward. They look at the numbers in the boxes.
There's also the algo trading. It popped a little bit. Sell it. Take your profits.
No surprises. Nothing exciting.
Nothing surprises me.
I mean, I'm talking about the earnings deck.
Yeah, I mean, energy is rock solid and only going to ramp from here. And the Model 2 is being built. That is stunning. That got me by surprise. And that big gigatex of Texas car factory or carport, car garage, whatever you call them. I think there's a layer in there where they are hiding them.
The whole ground floor has security fencing around it that a lot of us expected to disappear when Robotaxi was unveiled, the Cybercab was unveiled. And it's my belief that those have been hiding in there this whole time, because why else would they have such robust privacy for that? And to answer something Alexandra brought up earlier, Joe Techmeyer is frequently asked, definitely don't fly on this day. And sometimes they'll do the opposite and say, you should fly on this day, because they have a very good working relationship. It works out well when everyone plays nice. We get access, but not unlimited access.
Do you think, for example, because they're ramping slowly, it's just a weird theory, maybe to Jeff, that they are stockpiling these Model 2s to be ready for Q4 after everybody buys up all the cars in the US in Q3 because of the
I said that 2
expiring.
weeks ago. I said that 2 weeks ago.
Yeah, this isn't going to be a typical ramp. This is what we said as well about the Model Y, why the Model Y handover, weeks were far different from the week they actually started production, because they have to get enough in inventory. You don't want to sell a car at, it's $30,000 that you have to wait 6 months for. So yeah, they're going to have to do a pre-build. They're going to have to, Tesla knows how to store vehicles and keep them out of sight. So it's clear that they're doing that. And also, I think I talked about it earlier this week. Tesla's vertically integrated, so everything that's related to the form factor and shape of the vehicle, they actually make. And so therefore they can contain a lot of this from a secrecy perspective. This is why you won't see a lot of leaks. You'll see a lot of attempts of like, I saw this drone shot or saw this or that, but you won't actually see a lot of leaks because they make all this stuff in-house.
Well, a lot of the parts are going to be in common with the existing 3 and or Y. Therefore, for example, when I know people in the parts supply network, they won't necessarily see it. They might see an uptick in orders, but they won't know which model of car it's going on to. My question for you guys would be, how many cars do you think they could move off site before someone notices? Because to stockpile any kind of serious number, we're talking thousands and thousands of cars.
Yeah.
That gets hard to hide. Even if you do it at night, there would be, you could put covers on them. Are you going to buy that many car covers? Are you going to use generic car covers that you could reuse over and over? I just don't know.
That's not the right question. The right question is, how far do you want to go without Osborning your current sales? That's the key to it all.
Hey, guys, I want to look at this. I think one of the most important sentences, not the most, says here, plans for new vehicles that will launch in 2025 remain on track. New vehicles, with a plural, including the initial production of a more affordable model. Now it's just one more affordable model in first half of 2025. it can't just be 2 vehicles. It sounds like it's going to be 3.
No, it could be 2.
Yeah.
It could
be.
just be 2.
And 1 is in production undercover.
Yeah, and they're doing this, and this is multiple sites. Shanghai's doing something, probably doing something out of Texas. So yeah, I mean that's
So, but what does this mean, right? There's a more affordable model. That's the one we are waiting for. But then there's another new vehicle that's not a more affordable model.
Yeah, and
Isn't
that could be
the
the
extended Y.
But
yeah.
oh,
Yeah.
okay, gotcha. Because it's will launch in 2025, remain on
Yeah.
track. So it's
Yeah.
not considered launched yet. Yeah.
Yeah. I think everything's as expected. There's no bump in inventory of much consequence. There's a I mean, I don't think that if they're holding vehicles in the bottom of that garage, they're not holding much more by way of inventory. By the way, stock's down $2 now.
These aren't meaningful moves in the stock. I think they're waiting for
No.
the earnings call.
Yes,
It was up a couple bucks. It's down a couple. I think they're waiting
Jeff,
for the call.
Would you recall us, because I don't have my line well in my head yet. Whatever comes this year is not unboxed, right? This is this mixed
the new
line
vehicle.
with
No, the new vehicle is supposed to be unboxed. No, Cybercap. Sorry.
exactly.
You're right.
So
Yeah,
26.
you're right.
So
You're
go
right.
ahead, Jeff. Tell me, because you're much better at explaining it than I will ever be.
What they're doing right now is they're taking existing Model Y serial production, general assembly capacity, and they're doing retrofits. This isn't like full on retooling like old Model Y to new Model Y. These are smaller changes, and as Brian said earlier, there's a lot of reuse of the guts of the things that are inside of these things. I believe what they're doing is a smaller version. The model, I've always said a larger version and a smaller version. They've announced a larger version of the vehicle. So these are programming changes on robots. There's going to be some fixturing changes in terms of how they interface with the vehicle on the line. There's going to be some reconfiguration and movement, but these aren't new robots. This isn't all new tooling that's needed for all these parts. It's going to be a lot of reuse of the existing Model Y, and that this is just basically fanning out the Model Y series. And I've seen some of the conversations on X. I honestly don't get it. Coming from a product background, when you have a hit product, and they do, the Model Y is a certified global hit. What you try to do is you try to go off and tackle different segments that you're not able to get today. So, and we did this, and I gave the razor example. We did a thinner one because we found out the original razor was just too wide in the hand, and we needed something that could bring in more women into it. So we made a narrower version of it. So I think that's what they're doing, and it allows them to reuse a lot of the tooling, pull down the capex, and responsibly then bring up their utilization. They're basically saying in this earnings deck that they're underutilizing their capacity. That is a drag on COGS. That's a unfavorable drag on COGS. So if you can get that utilization up, you're going to bring COGS down for everybody, and you're going to do it in a more responsible, cash efficient manner. Before you go to Cybercab, now you've got all new tooling. Now you've got a completely different factory configuration. You've got it's a more modular assembly approach and completely different components. They haven't talked about it in the deck, and who knows if they'll talk about it, but I think they're going to be using some of those Cybercab components. They're going to start bringing those forward as well. The stuff we don't see.
Thank you.
When you guys look at the photos, it's a small thing, but you got this, which is a beautiful Tesla ecosystem. Then they've got the FSD supervised has been tested in Paris, London, Sydney, and Rome. And we know that Elon said that Europe and China are coming, FSD supervised, and even Australia. We heard that coming. Then the first autonomous delivery of a vehicle. Nice photo of that, just to commemorate that momentous event. Then there was like 4 photos of the diner. 4. That's a lot more than I would expect. Of course, this one's good. First responders, honor them. This is near the Palisades fire. So I thought that was important that they honored them. open for charging, dining, entertainment. This is a beautiful hero shot. Another good shot here of actual interactions, and then another one there. So I don't know. 4 is quite.
Do you realize that this diner is gonna be a lab showcase of Optimus?
Yeah.
It's gonna show. This is going to be the microcosm of what an Optimus can do between meal preparation, serving, cleaning, whatever you want. Everything is going to happen in there. It's going to look fantastic. They're going to be fantastic pictures, and it's open 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. It's going to be a real showcase for Optimus.
Well, what I was going to say is, looking at the pictures of the diner, all I could think was too many humans. No, on the Model Y line and changeover, when they did the retooling, that was retooling for all of it. So there wasn't. It's not like they took all the lines down and then 6 months later have to take them down again. It is pretty clear that was all done at the same time, and because the Model Y has lines in Fremont, Austin, Shanghai, and Berlin, we know Berlin and Texas are grossly underutilized. This will give them an opportunity, as Jeff was saying, to increase that, get more bang out of the existing buck. And yes, that will not just improve overall cost because of the line utilization, but more models, more units using the same parts means lower cost of goods, economies of scale.
Yeah. Remember, Tesla is still dodging a lot of tariff stuff. To bring up a new product, they're doing supplier changes, they're doing location changes. The tariffs are a very difficult thing for if you make hardware that's very complex, 10,000 parts. Tariffs are a very difficult thing. I would say Tesla, if compared to other automakers, is in a much better situation, but they're not unscathed. And having to deal with this, and we've seen now that the shift of product out of Brandenburg to Canada, which I think is actually a good thing to fill up Berlin. But yeah, there's a lot of that happening in the background. I think they mentioned it in the deck as well. I think it's a real stress on them trying to get these new products out, and then also trying to deal with these localization changes. It's great that they're starting from a point of greater than 90% localization in all these different sites. They're in a much better situation. Other companies are in a world of hurt.
Oh, yeah. In fact, I put together a little table, Jeff, and you can keep me honest here to see if this is still valid and true of the actual impact of the tariffs from different components that they get. But worst case scenario, I reckon, is $3,000 to $4,000 per vehicle. And if you compare that to graphite, one of the things that is hurt actually is the graphite with the tariff rate from China up to 100% for graphite, but that's only $200 to $500 per car. Can you vet me on that? And then other parts that come from Canada and Mexico, maybe a tiny fraction of the $2,600, etc.
It's a good attempt, James. But I think the way to think about this is a great company and supply chain is not going to allow all these to stack and stay that way. So, like I said on graphite, it is closer to $800 to $1,000. By the way, it's a little bit higher, but again, it's a gradient. They're going to figure out how to get localized graphite supply. It's going to take them a little bit more. They're going to pull in inventory prior to this graphite tariff. I don't believe it's even this anti-dumping thing hasn't even. I think it's been announced. I'm not sure it's actually been signed. And it's even been put in. But what Tesla's known about this, again, they've been writing letters on it since Q1. They've known about it probably prior, and they've been pulling in inventory. And they've been working with new suppliers to qualify them and localize them. But yeah, so my key takeaway from all this is a great company isn't going to allow all of these to be serial and stack. They're going to solve it. And they're going to solve it in a gradient fashion. So there is going to be some impact. It's probably going to be a couple $1,000s per vehicle, but there should be this roll off of them solving these again. But that's why you want the tariff situation to settle. Like you want it to, like, okay, is this what everything's going to look like? Great, we'll go and solve for that. Yeah. By the way, the 15% in Japan threw a lot of people for a loop, and you've got a lot of the existing auto companies saying, hey, what gives, right? 15% out of Japan, and 30%, 25-30% out of Mexico, makes it a difficult conversation.
Yeah. By the way, I had
Go ahead.
I had dinner
James.
with the grandson of you probably remember the pencil factory, the Faber-Castell, Eberhard Faber's grandson.
Of course.
And they make pencils from graphite. So there is graphite in the US somewhere.
There is, yeah, for sure.
That is true. Herbert, can you go back to the FSD chart that's on page 8, the blue and red one?
Yeah, before we get there, I'm just set up right now. Just want to remind everybody that it's 1:50 right now. In 40 minutes, that's when Tesla will do their live stream. We will play it right here. As soon as this goes live, we'll play, and you can listen directly to Elon and the Tesla team sharing their commentary on the Tesla financial results. So that will happen in 40 minutes. Okay, let me set that up for you, Alexandra. Sorry, you want what?
I want that chart where it has in blue the FSD miles on version 11 and in red the FSD miles on version 12 and beyond on, yes, that one on the top right. Can you get that bigger? Yeah, exactly. And, we're so used to these, but if you see the slope on, oops, now you were on the next page.
Oh, sorry. Thumbs.
Fat fingers, you're trying to say?
Yeah.
No problem.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's the slope is accelerating. We're so used to that. And Gene Munster just made a very good post about it. The miles added in the June quarter are 1.2 billion. So the year-over-year growth is 140%, but the miles added in March quarter were 0.6 billion. So we went from 0.6 billion to 1.2 billion. Yeah. Exactly.
Wow.
I have a question regarding that fellow. He doesn't own any Tesla shares, but he's a Tesla expert. How is that possible?
Well, he's a fund manager. I mean, he's obviously an analyst, and he has now his financial advisory firm, and he has a fund, and I think he has some Tesla in that fund.
Because I saw him on CNBS, and he just did his disclosure. He doesn't own any or have.
No,
any
he doesn't personally own any, but I think his fund does. But I have to check it again because it's been a while that I checked his fund. When I checked last, he had some. It was actually one of his top 5 positions then.
Can you imagine us sitting here and talking about Tesla all
we're
the time
studying it.
and not owning any Tesla? It's just,
yeah.
I have a hard time rationalizing that in my small brain.
Yeah.
Larry, can you address this bottom chart here, which is the AI ramp, H100 equivalent GPUs? We just heard, and maybe you can give us an update of what you heard XAI, to Elon announce what the goal is for XAI and where XAI is. But here's Tesla's, and it looks pretty good. I mean, here we go, June. I mean, it's kind of flat here, and then it's planning to go up here. What are you happy with this?
Yeah, the numbers are going to explode though next year, or not next year, sorry, next quarter, when they start building out the new factory, the new installation at the second in the new building. The numbers are going to explode. The new building's, I think, 3 times the area of the old. So, I mean, you ain't seen nothing yet, is I think as the saying goes.
But you're happy for this quarter, September 2025?
Oh yeah. This is
the plans.
Yeah, this is a pretty significant. This is a pretty significant expansion, right?
Yeah,
it's a very significant expansion, in fact. So I think it actually surprised me that it was as much as that. I didn't realize they had as much space available. Thought they had built out, the whole space, but apparently they had a lot of space available.
This shows that they've hit over 100,000 GPUs equivalents.
Equivalent, yeah. They A100, B100, sorry, A100.
H100s. H100s.
H100, right. Equivalent. So we don't know how much of that is in more advanced chips that, that take up a lot less space. I mean, dramatically less space. So when they start the second factory, the amount of space they have is just incredible. Did you notice, by the way, how low the roof is? It's, that's part of, the temperature control. So they want to get all the volume of air out of there as fast as possible as it heats up. So
They don't
that's
have a photo
interesting.
of that. Yeah, they have the
Yeah.
largest supercharger site.
Mm-hmm. No, I
Take a
didn't
look,
mean
Alexandra.
from-
Take a look. Okay, solar right here, right?
I know, I
168
know.
cells, powered by solar. But look at
The
this.
day he comes out with the solar farm, I'll send you flowers. I promise.
There, look at this.
Stop. I saw that.
Solar.
Oh my God. Solar. Yeah. Can you go back just one page, because I saw a very good comment here on the YouTube chat, which is, did you all realize the two pictures on the right is London and Australia? And London,
Oh.
I think we didn't know before. We knew Rome, we knew Paris, we know that it's coming to Australia because of recent comments, but London was new to me, and obviously to many people in the chat as well, and we shouldn't miss that.
I mean, right hand drives. That's
Well,
the
you also
key.
see Big Ben. Come on, open your eyes. Do you
I
see
see it.
your eyes?
I've been
Okay.
there.
Oh, God. Let's
I've been
do it.
here.
So I mean, in the ballpark on revenue and EPS, big. I mean, it's fairly decent gross margin beat, but really it's FSD miles exploding, and that sentence in there about they're not location specific and they can expand the Robotaxi network rapidly with marginal investment. I mean,
That's the biggest.
that's it.
Well, what's interesting to me is that the stock price has held its own. It's kind of around so everything that's happened everything that's in this report was somewhat expected. Now everything turns on which Elon Musk turns up to the call. If we get Elon, talking his vision, I think we're going to see very good action on the stock price, and I think it's set a platform for the future. If Elon is, if he gets truculent, then I think we'll see a significant dip in the stock. But I think he's probably pretty high right on these results. I would be
Truculent?
truculent.
Truculent.
You want me to spell it for you?
Yeah.
You're always trying to put words in, so I'm sure not to understand, right?
Truculent.
Truculent? I'll ask your Grok.
Yeah, ask Rock.
Always depend on Larry to expand our vocabulary.
Starts in 30 minutes.
Is one other item that I am personally intrigued in. They did buy 16,000 H200s that they have deployed, but could there come a time, anybody, that they could use all of the power from XAI to run Tesla down the line? Like they just grabbed, a couple of weeks ago, they raised $10 billion to buy chips. And right now, today, they're raising another $12 billion to buy more. I mean, it's a crazy arms race, and they are throwing so much money at chips. It's not even funny.
It is. And I mean, obviously there are synergies, but I think one subject that's a little bit touchy, and at one point I would like, questions and answers on that, is this relationship between XAI and Tesla and other companies of the Musk economy. How are those contracts set up? I mean, this must be such a headache for the board to make sure this is all fair, this is all at the best possible price, this is a fair exchange. I don't think this is an easy subject. And I mean, I'm happy we all have, these resources all over the place. But, how much is a fair exchange of people, of compute, of data?
Let's address the question about whether XAI could process Tesla's AI requirements. And the answer is probably impractical, because the way XAI is set up, the way they're configured, and given the pressure on them, the way they're configured is not ideal for what Tesla is looking for. And the way Tesla is set up is equally not as ideal for the way XAI would want them set up. So I think it's probably unlikely. My guess is that there isn't a lot of exchange. for Tesla's core FSD processing. That's what I think. But I think the one area that they could well share workloads is in inference. I think a very significant portion of Tesla's inference is on AI4 chips and soon to be AI5. And I can imagine that XAI could either be using AI4 chips or could be operating on Tesla's AI4 chips. I think that's the one area where there's real common ground in terms of configuration.
When do you guys want to cover the questions that they might ask?
Those are always fun. I'm happy to cover that whenever.
Yeah, maybe we should do that now. Okay. Let's try it.
I just find it so funny that the retail questions are always better than the analyst questions. Can anybody figure out why?
And they're still not the best.
Because we pay attention. The questions have gotten a lot better, but it's because we actually follow one company and we follow it closely, where these guys are covering whole industries, sometimes whole sectors. It is insane. Well, I cover 100 companies. Poorly is what you do.
And
But
I
how
also
would you
think
cover-
some of them are deliberately ridiculous. You know, when Adam Jonas, who is one of the best ones out there, asks about LiDAR, I think it's a joke. I think he makes a joke. It comes out, you know, as ridiculous as the question is, but I do believe he is just blowing off a chance to ask a good question.
But this year, I think most people I've been hearing are pretty happy with these retail questions. Do you guys agree with that? Are you guys happy with this time of year?
This year, much better. This quarter, much better. Last quarter was terrible. Terrible.
It's not the questions I have a problem with. Yes, we can hear you this time, Nick. It's not the questions I have a problem with. It's the questions that weren't asked or that are so buried. There's a real bias towards the first batch of questions in, get the most visibility, get the most votes, rise to the top. And I feel that there are better questions farther down that we'll never see.
First two questions on Robotaxi. Third question is Optimus. And am I allowed to reveal? Last time I revealed, got my hand slapped.
For what?
For revealing who asked one of these questions.
Oh yeah, then people were other analysts were making fun. Elon, it's a dumb question.
No. Okay. Okay. So here, first question is on Robotaxi. Can you give us some insights how Robotaxis have been performing so far, and what rate you expect to expand in terms of vehicles, geofence, cities, and supervisors? I think it's a good question, guys. Do you think that they would not have answered this question before this question?
I think it's a good question because it's not one that we got the answer from the slide deck. I feel like in the past, that's been the annoying thing, is either it's in the opening remarks, we get the answer, or it's in the slide deck. So
I mean, it's precise enough, because I agree with you, Herbert. He's going to address that in the opening remarks, but he's probably not going to skip all
a
these
few things.
Yeah, exactly. And so he has to come back to it. But I mean,
Well
they
said.
can very well waive it and say, we just talked about that, and that was that.
Yeah, but we want to know vehicles, geofence area, cities, supervisors. That's great. And the rate and performance. I mean, I think, Jeff, you said that they're not going to share those data of the performance though, right?
And probably not. So I mean, I think when they're ready, they will. They'll do it with regulators first. It'd be the worst thing to do is like put something here that's not, what you're talking with regulators with. So anyway, we'll see. But probably not.
And they will not share what they're going to do. They'll tell you what they've done, right? They're not about to say we're about to launch tomorrow.
I don't know.
Okay.
I think Elon's given goalposts on where he'd like to see FSD
Yeah.
or Robotaxi expansion before. So I don't know if
Oh, that's true. Yeah, he'll say
yeah.
California by the end of this year. I'd be shocked if we aren't in Arizona.
Well, he'll probably say just 2 weeks, probably end of next year for sure.
Exactly. Next question is about FSD, unsupervised FSD for personal use. What's the timeline? What are the key technical and regulatory hurdles?
I mean, one hurdle obviously is if there's any amount of supervisors, who's going to pay for them? Because if someone paid, there are people out there who paid $5,000-$6,000 for FSD. You can chew through that in supervisor hours real quick, even at a 5-to-1, 20-to-1 ratio. So it's got to get down to just about nothing before that can happen, in my view.
You guys think this is important? Unsupervised FSD to personal use, is that going to increase volume
huge.
sales? Is it going to increase the stock?
Absolutely. You know, just imagine you got to go from Seattle to LA for a meeting, just sleep in the back of your car. That just opens up a whole new world. And I drove 5 hours yesterday in the Cybertruck, and even though I haven't had an upgrade probably in 2 weeks or more, the nag wasn't there yesterday, and I have no idea why. Has anybody else noticed that? I drove for 5 hours, and literally, normally you got to wiggle the wheel if you take your eyes off the camera for a second.
Cybertruck hasn't had a nag for months.
No, but
Cybertruck's-
if you look down on the floor,
if you look
look at
down,
the screen,
yeah.
or you're watching YouTube, whatever, all the bad things that sometimes people would do.
Yeah, I drove to Nashville over the week, early this week, and I got nagged. I got, dinged when I didn't look. In fact, actually, I wasn't driving the Cybertruck. I was driving the Model 3. I forgot about that. Yeah. Good, I'll try it.
Third question. Very good question. Can you provide an update on the development and production timeline for Tesla's more affordable models? How will these models balance cost reduction with profitability, and what impact do you expect on demand in the current economic climate?
I think that'll get answered. I think half of the answer's already in the report that we just saw. And
the other
rest
half,
of
they're not going to give it to us. Exactly
well,
right.
yeah.
There are states, by the way, that still have EV credits, and that needs to be taken into account too. If you can prove you're low income, you can get yourself a Cybertruck or something like that. I heard yesterday. So that could also, if a state could come out with, if Tesla come out with a really affordable car, like a 25K car, and there's the uncarred people that need to be able to commute to work, maybe certain states would offer up special credits. Is that a stretch?
Well, especially if we're talking about an affordable model, if you look at Washington State's incentives, there have been very few cars that have qualified historically because the price cap is so low. I think Tesla could only get in on it on Model 3s and only if they were leased. There was some kind of loophole that would get you into a Tesla, but that was the first model and the first time that it had ever qualified last year. But I could see the states with really low limits making it qualify. So that would be, and if they're going to be making them in Berlin and importing them to Canada, Canada also has lower, typically when they do incentives, will have a lower ceiling than some countries. So it would be another place where they could potentially get in on a credit.
If Canada gives credits, they'll exclude Tesla.
It's true.
Well, they'll try, and they have tried in the past.
Yeah,
but bringing the Model Y from Berlin makes it now cheaper than the Model 3. It's really hard to surgically impose rules. You have to make them broad enough that they'll stand up to a legal challenge.
Yeah,
How they did that with the wall chargers in BC, I'm not sure, but it could be because. I'm not sure. Maybe it's a BC Hydro thing, but on the vehicles, they put the high tariff on Chinese cars that ended Shanghai-built Models 3 and Y from coming in. They started importing them from the U.S. Well, those have a tariff now too. So Model Y from Berlin.
So, Alexandra, you said that they've already answered this first question. Can you provide an update on the development and production timeline for Tesla's more affordable models?
No.
But
No. What I said is They've given a part of the answer there in our deck saying we've started.
Right.
And what we want to know is they're not going to
Yeah.
answer that. And they should not. They should not. I
The
mean, it is
Q4
in
thing.
interest
Some people
of
think that they
every-
might say we're waiting for the regulatory, the IRA
They
credits.
should not say that.
They should not say
Please
that.
don't say it. Please don't say it. Just leave it out there. Say it will come. I mean, if you want to re-push it, we'll, put it second half so people may think it may be December or whatever. But it's not, there is no benefit in saying any of those details, neither profitability, nor dates, nor how much demand. I mean, one question I have to Jeff. Let's say they produce and store underground and have nice places to hide it. So they have now 3 months to do so. And if I'm right with we're launching it first week of Q4 theory, how much reserve could have been built up? Are we talking 5,000 cars? Are we talking 20,000 cars? Could this happen simultaneously in Berlin and Shanghai? And if so, does that then multiply the number of hidden cars? What is it?
The technical answer to your question is they need to forecast their weekly run rate and how many weeks of supply they typically hold. They're now at around 3 weeks of supply. And what you would want is a run rate that could support that. That's the answer if we're putting variables into equation. I don't know what that number is going to be. I don't know how many they think they're going to sell of this model. I don't think they want to store, that many vehicles, by the way. That's not how Tesla operates. What they want to do is they want to accelerate the ramp so they're at that weekly run rate as quickly as possible. But yeah, this isn't going to be a dribble like they've done with other products in the past. That's why you saw them hold the new Model Y a little bit longer. I think they had issues, by the way. I think that's part of maybe some of the departures. I'm just speculating, but I think they had issues in the distribution and country by country qualification of the new Model Y, and they're going to want to do better. If these are lower cost vehicles and it's meaningfully lower, they're going to want to build up more inventory. The short answer to your question is there's an equation for it. Maybe even a shorter answer is I think it's going to differ by region. It's not going to be hundreds of thousands of cars, though. They would not want to have all that inventory. If you have a quality problem, that would be a disaster. So what companies typically like to do is they want to improve the angle of the ramp and get to that weekly run rate as quickly as possible.
Now, do remember the Model Y, the new Model Y, we were able to launch in 4 factories at the same time, right? Fremont, Austin, Berlin, and Shanghai. So we had that test. I agree with you. It wasn't perfect, but it was as close to perfect as you could probably get. Nobody else has ever succeeded anything.
They're getting
even
better.
half
Yeah.
terrible. Exactly. They're getting better. And go ahead, Larry.
Yeah, and with this product, it should be easier than with the new Model Y. Because I think they're keying so much on the existing Model Y, and they've had the ramp experience already. So I'm guessing that this will go much smoother, but it could be wrong.
The other thing, the key thing to look at is part reuse. And Brian brought this up earlier. The old Model Y to the new Model Y, I think there was about a 70% changeover in parts. That's a lot. There wasn't tremendous reuse from the old Model Y to the new, but from, as Larry was saying, from the new Model Y to these variants, there should hopefully be greater reuse, and that will definitely help the slope of the ramp.
Well, and the Model 3, by the way, was 50% new parts. So the parts in common from new 3 to new Y is likely very high.
Yeah. And do we have any information from Joe about, all these parts lying around the Giga Austin, the castings and whatever? Because I had the feeling I saw a couple of days ago that he said there is more than usual. Is that something you heard as well?
Those are the ones that are Cybercab sized. Unless they're going to be changing the castings on the Model Y, which I think would be unlikely, then those would just be Cybercab castings.
Yeah.
They're not going in July having outside Cybercab castings for next year.
I agree. I think that means Cybercab may be coming sooner.
Yeah, I think it's coming sooner.
That's right. Yeah.
What?
Mass production. Go read the deck again. They said mass production is in 2025. So you got to start at some point.
But volume production 2026. You're right.
Or
you have
excuse me,
to start
2020, sorry, 2026.
Yeah.
Apologies. Yeah, so you
But
got
you're
to
right.
start
You're-
probably in 2025.
Yeah. There's a thing called SOP, start of production, and then there's this thing of getting to peak run rate, where like what's your peak weekly run rate, and that's where they would consider volume production. So you're right. They are going to start some amount of greater. You don't just turn a switch on and turn on production. You try to ramp up through the prototyping phase, but don't be too phased by that. I think they're going to build hundreds, maybe thousands of cybercabs as they're proving out all these different they're proving out on box. They're proving out a number of different things. If they're trying to get to a 5-second click rate through the line and they're coming down from a 30-second click rate off the line, that is a different factory. That is an unbelievable transformation. And you don't do that overnight. You've got to glide into that.
Thank you,
And-
Jeff.
and I
That was going to be my point. The reason that there's so many castings and the reason that they're doing a lot different spool up for the Cybercab is exactly because it's a completely different product. It's a completely different manufacturing methodology. And those castings may even be, they may even be thrown away ultimately because they have to get something real in the production line that they're busy trying to spool up.
Correct.
And, yeah.
Correct.
Can I
And I
offer-
want to just 1 second. I want to add, because I see these comments both on YouTube and on Access so much saying, why in the world do they build a Cybercab? The Cybercab won't have a lot of things that are currently still in the Model Y. And so why in the world would you not build a Cybercab? You need the car to be as efficient and as low cost as possible and in mass production. And it's going to be so much more efficient and cheaper than any Model Y. So don't feel the Model Y can do all the uses the Cybercab is going to do.
I want to offer a different opinion from what everyone has said here as far as the new models. I don't really agree that they're going to try to milk the $7,500 credit in fear of Osborning themselves. I think once they're ready to roll them out, they're going to roll them out. Because I think on paper, that might make sense, that logic. But in reality, I don't think that's how it plays out. I think in reality, people buy as much as they can afford. And so if you can afford a Model Y or a Model 3 or Model S or Model X, you tend to lean into that. And so I think it's two different market segments, two different clientele. And I think you're better off selling everything you can. And if anything, showing a back order, a backlog back to the COVID days. Like, I think that's better than them sitting there trying to split hairs over a few pennies by the end of the next quarter.
Okay. Great conversation. Incredible panel. This is the smartest, most insightful panel there is in Tesla. I want to say that. I think it's true. Follow all of these incredible experts here. Just to remind everybody, we are going to be live streaming the actual Tesla earnings call. That will happen in 10 minutes. Look down here, 10 minutes. We'll play it right here. We will get off the screen. You'll be able to listen to it uninterrupted. And in the meantime, we've been ignoring CERN. CERN's been here quietly. Everybody's going, CERN's the best. CERN's the best.
Bring it
Nick's
on,
mic
CERN.
is too hot. Why is Nick yelling? CERN's the best. How you doing, CERN? What's your
I'm
thoughts?
One of a fabulous team. You guys are great. I've been listening to you since the report came out. Thank you for all your knowledge. But I did put together a few charts.
Okay.
It
Ooh.
wouldn't be me
wow.
if I didn't come with some charts.
Yeah, where are they? Did you send it to me?
I emailed them to you, Herbert.
Damn it. You should have told me ahead of
Herbert
time.
is not ready. Sir,
I'm not ready.
Put it on the union list. I'm so done with Herbert. We're just joking, but actually we're not joking, right?
Herbert should know by now that when he sees me that there's going to be something in his inbox.
He should
I
know
guess
many
so.
things. It's
I guess
just
so. I don't know.
producer Herbert.
Yeah. I'm busy. Gosh.
Oh, excuse us.
You're busy
So-
trying to make fun of every panelist. Not pulling
Right?
up your
Laughing
email.
his way through.
Okay, it's coming. Oh no. Okay, well you got to go through it quick, dude, because
Yep, it's quick.
Because the earnings call never starts
Sir,
late.
He's already complaining. He doesn't even have the thoughts yet. He's already complaining.
Okay, wait.
So, are you coming to the X takeover this weekend?
Unfortunately, no.
Oh, that's a shame. We could have signed the union
Yeah,
setup.
a
Yeah.
letter.
Maybe
Well,
I
I'll
should
be
fly
there.
out.
I'll
Soren's
be
not part of
signing
that. You're not part of it, dude. All right.
Oh,
go.
Okay.
sorry.
So real quick, for those that care about margins, I want to satisfy your need to scratch that itch. Gross margins, you can see a little bit of hope starting to trend up, maybe there at the end. Net profit margins went up. Operating profit margins went up. Now, the net margin went up because of a little bit of a gain on something called Bitcoin, offsetting higher stock-based compensation. So that certainly helped. Okay, so a little bit of hope there. Herbert, if you go to the next one. Auto gross margins, for those that care about profitability of autos, with and without regulatory credits. If you take out reg credits, the gray line with the orange dots, pretty good increase there. And we're now back at levels that we saw 4 quarters ago.
Yeah, so we're 15% and market expected 14.5. So that was really better.
Yep. Next chart, profitability or gross margins in the different lines of business. Energy, 30%. Autos ticking up. Service and other ticking up. Everything's headed in the upward direction for once. So that's great. Average selling prices. This surprised me. ASPs went up quite a bit in autos. I think $1,800. And the costs, pretty flat.
And that's despite the high-end mix being down. Must
Yeah.
be the new Model Y being more expensive.
And so that
Yes, we
translates.
had
But
obviously the launch model.
But the launch model ended this quarter, like pretty
But
early
this
this
is
quarter.
about, well, it was 1 month, 1 full month in that quarter.
And then so that translates onto the next page, Herbert, of profitability of a Tesla gross profit per vehicle of almost $5,900.
Nice.
And
We're
it's been a
going to
little
laugh
while since
about
we've seen
these
that.
numbers once we have software as a service revenues. I mean, we're just going to laugh about this.
Yes. Yeah, the fact that we cared about this will be laughable at some point. That's right. And then revenue components as a share of total. So you can see there that service and other is in the yellow, the orange, energy in green. The blue is reg credits, and the red is autos. And so if you exclude, if you look at autos in terms of the percent of the total, it's just a little bit above 70% of revenue. And that's a little bit higher than last quarter because of the weaker sales or weaker delivery numbers. But you can see the trend though is those other businesses are becoming slightly bigger over time. And again, just wait until Robotaxi revenue starts to flow, and then eventually Optimus. And then the next page is the business
will
line gross profit.
Robotaxi be part of services and other until a certain time, or what? Where do you expect?
I don't know how they'll do that, Herbert. In my mind, it should be a completely separate business unit.
Yeah.
Who knows how they'll do that. And this is from a gross profit perspective. Autos now is about 65% this quarter. And I just assumed that the margin on the...
It's not a bad quarter. It's really not a bad quarter.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then just to show, I think, Alexandra, you were talking about this, the Capex versus R&D. This is a company that's investing heavily in its future. 2 components of that are Capex, which is capitalized, it's not expensed, and then R&D, which is expensed quarter to quarter. R&D reduces profits. And you can see that R&D line there in yellow or orange, depending on what color you see there, is trending up pretty solidly. The Capex has bounced around a bit.
This is such a growth company. I can't believe that people don't understand. This is still a baby. This is the same risk you take on some companies that just IPO. Of course, it has a longer history, but there's the big stories are yet to come.
Well said, Alexandra. It's $1 trillion baby with $37 billion in cash at the center of 4 of the biggest gliding S curves on the planet. Nobody can even get close to what this is.
Yeah,
a lean,
well
baby.
And so then this one, again, speaks to the management, how well managed the company is. So the green is the operating cash flow. So that includes after R&D expense, cash flow left. And the blue is the Capex. Ideally, you don't want to go free cash flow negative. There have been quarters where they have. But this quarter, there was a slight, positive cash flow. And that was in spite of the fact that they increased Capex this quarter. So they are investing very wisely, very carefully, and managing this business very well in what's proven to be a very difficult market for EVs. It's very impressive.
Yeah, and in fact, if you saw the results coming out from General Motors, I think yesterday or today, shocking. They're getting completely clobbered as well. So,
what are the odds?
Energy gross margin, Sawyer just posted, is 30.3%.
Yep.
That's
I can hear
pretty
music
awesome.
now. First of all, thank you so much for doing that, Søren. That was, as always,
Awesome.
brilliant, because it sometimes, I came across as that there was a number of numbers that went down, but you're showing it that actually turned out to be pretty good.
It's a
Can you
pretty
guys hear
solid
the
quarter
music
for
or
what
not?
Wall Street cares about.
No, we don't.
No.
no music.
I hear somebody growling.
Yeah. I liked it.
That's me. That was me growling. Okay, let me shut it down and restart it. That's what happened last time. Don't worry,
The
I know what
growling
I'm
or the
doing.
restart?
I know what
You
I'm
see
doing.
how he
Don't worry.
puts himself in the center? Do you see that? Look at that.
Yeah,
That
this is
was
the Brady
accidental.
Bunch right here.
I have no idea what's going on, dude. I'm
That
busy.
makes him
I'm
Alice, I
busy.
think.
You control it, Alexander. You control it.
You got to be kidding.
Yeah, no.
Do you think if I control it, I wouldn't put myself in the center?
Yeah, you
Come
should
on,
put yourself.
don't you know me?
You should. Put yourself in the center.
And a reminder with that, when the call ends, we will still be here to discuss what we have just learned.
Yeah.
And if you haven't already, hit the thumbs up because it helps people find this
Brian?
video.
Are you already in San Francisco?
I am. I'm in Roanoke Park right now.
I just think that we should tell the chat a couple of things. Farzad is not here because he's driving up at the moment. Brian is in a hotel room. I mean, we really try to make this all, doable for all of us. And people criticizing that you hold your mic in the hand. Well, we're doing this in any circumstance. You did it out of China the other day. I loved it.
Yeah. Well, I don't. I'm not going to pack a mic stand. I can afford a mic stand. I'm just on the road, and I'm not going to pack it.
Okay, guys,
Herbert,
you can
still
hear
don't
the
hear
music, right?
No.
Negative. No, sir.
Tell me what I'm doing wrong, guys.
There's a setting in Streamlabs. I'm looking for the StreamYard setting.
By the way, Søren, back to your charts while there is fixing that technical thing. One of the things that stood out to me, having a big hit on the actual numbers, was the regulatory credits falling from 890 million to 439 million, which you showed as well. Without that, net of the results were really good. And of course, the Bitcoin gain had a little bit of an impact and the services revenue gain. Is there anything else that really stood out to you on a big number piece that Wall Street might be overlooking?
Sorry,
the
real
thing
quick.
that stands out to me is the fact that they're investing so much in R&D and growing that aggressively. If they weren't doing that, the current earnings of the company would be a lot higher. In fact, more than double this quarter.
Music.
Yes, we hear it.
All right.
Right.
Thanks, Søren.
So the fact that companies investing so heavily, they've actually penalized their short-term results. But that's exactly what you want to see from a company is them invest in their future business.
Exactly. Now,
Okay,
now
you guys can hear it?
Turn off the music.
Yes.
I
It's
can
not
lower it a little bit.
demonetized.
Okay. Oh, what? Yeah. Okay. I have to turn it off now. Or
Just turn on the
lower it.
volume.
Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah, just so that we don't all get copyright strikes.
Right.
How it is that events have yet to figure out that copyright music makes a lot of their events unshareable is beyond me. I tell every event that I work with to do your best to limit it or at least turn it down so it's not earth-shatteringly loud at your event. And they always go, no.
Yeah.
Okay.
Søren, there was another question that we had at the very start, and that was, what do you reckon the tipping point is for robotaxis? Is it 200 running at the same time? Is it 3 cities? Is it 2,000? What's your calculus on that one?
Well, the answer is everybody has a number that will wake them up. It's a different number for every firm, every analyst. The question is, what's the overall tipping point for the market? And that's your guess is as good as any, I think, on that. 3 cities makes sense to me.
Yeah.
To me, even just doing it in one city makes it plainly obvious that this is a model that's going to work. So I think it's just kind of what's the market's collective competence regarding this, and I think we're going to find out.
Good.
Okay, wait. Let's turn up the volume. The music stopped.
Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome
Okay.
to Tesla's second quarter 2025 Q&A webcast. My name is Travis Axelrod, Head of Investor Relations, and I'm joined today by Elon Musk, Vaibhav Taneja, and a number of other executives. Our Q2 results were announced at about 3 p.m. Central Time in the update deck be published at the same link as this webcast. During this call, we will discuss our business outlook and make forward-looking statements. These comments are based on our predictions and expectations as of today. Actual events or results could differ materially due to a number of risks and uncertainties, including those mentioned in our most recent filings with the SEC. During the question and answer portion of today's call, please limit yourself to one question and one follow-up. Please use the raise hand button to join the question queue. Before we jump into Q&A, Elon has some opening remarks. Elon?
Thanks, Travis. So we've had a very exciting quarter. We're able to successfully launch Robotaxi, so providing our first drives with no one in the driver's seat, with paying customers in Austin. And as some may have noted, we've already expanded our service area in Austin. It's bigger and longer, and it's going to get even bigger and longer. We were expecting to really greatly increase the Austin service area to well in excess of what competitors are doing, and that's hopefully in a week or so, a couple weeks.
Yeah, a couple of weeks.
A couple weeks or so, and then we're getting the regulatory permission to launch in the Bay Area, Nevada, Arizona, and Florida, and a number of other places. So as we get the approvals and we prove out safety, then we'll be launching autonomous ride-hailing in most of the country. And I think we'll probably have autonomous ride-hailing in probably half the population of the U.S. by the end of the year. That's at least our goal, subject to regulatory approvals. I think we'll technically be able to do it. So assuming we get regulatory approvals, it's probably addressing half the population of the U.S. by the end of the year. But we are being very cautious. We don't want to take any chances, and so we're going to go cautiously. But the service areas and the number of vehicles in operation will increase at a hyper exponential rate. Some other notable things. Model Y in June became the best-selling car in Turkey, Netherlands, Switzerland, and Austria. It is, I believe, the best-selling car of any kind in the world still. Autonomy is a big factor there. So even without supervised, even with just supervised self-driving, it's a huge selling point. And it's worth noting that we do not actually yet have approval for supervised FSD in Europe. So our sales in Europe, we think, will improve significantly once we are able to give customers the same experience that they have in the US. This is, I think, a very important point to convey. And we've been working with our main country regulator, which is the Netherlands. And I think we're close to getting approval with the Netherlands. Then it's going to go to the EU. It's quite a Kafkaesque. In fact, Kafka had no idea that something like the EU could exist. Beyond Kafkaesque challenges with bureaucracy, but we will get the approvals, and I think we'll get so people in Europe will have an experience similar to that of the US. In most of Europe, this year, hopefully, at least partially in this quarter. And then we also had some regulatory challenges in China, which we're hoping to unblock shortly, where because we also cannot provide supervised FSD in China currently, but we hope to unblock that soon. That's another major. It really is the single biggest demand driver. And then within the U.S., as we get confident about safety in different geographic areas, we'll loosen up on how much somebody has to be laser focused, to have their eyes laser focused on the road. Because that's been a common complaint. In fact, it does create an odd safety issue where people will sometimes disengage autopilot, then do something, change the radio, or maybe look at the phone, drive with their knee, and then re-engage autopilot, which obviously is less safe than simply keeping autopilot on. So anyway, we're get that experience will improve in the next several weeks. Because of our focus on Austin with no one in the driver's seat, the production release of autopilot is actually several months behind what people experience on a Robotaxi in Austin. So now we have the Robotaxi in Austin launched. We'll be adding back those elements so that there will be a step change improvement in the autopilot experience for people outside of Austin. So this is really, as you can tell, this is very much sort of autonomy is the story. Like we need the physical product, without which you cannot have autonomy. But once you have the physical product, you need the autonomy is what amplifies the value to stratospheric levels. We also launched the Tesla Dyna, which has been a huge hit. It actually got worldwide attention, which is unusual for a Dyna. Dynas don't typically get headline news around Earth. But this is a pretty special Dyna, and if you're in the LA area, it's worth visiting. It's sort of a shining beacon of hope in an otherwise sort of bleak urban landscape, frankly. So it's really quite a lovely experience. Great job by the Tesla team there. On the full self-driving front, continue talking about that. We're continuing to make significant improvements just with the software. So we're expecting to increase the parameter count. Actually, at this point, I think we can probably 10x almost 10x the parameter.
Yeah, roughly.
Yeah, roughly 10x the parameter count. So this is actually a very tricky thing to do, because as you increase the parameter count, you get choked on memory bandwidth. But we currently think we can 10x the parameter count from what people are currently experiencing. So not just a 4x, actually 10x increase in parameter count. Yeah, so there's still a lot of improvement on the existing hardware to happen. Energy is growing really well, despite headwinds from tariffs and spare supply chain challenges. The Megapack is expanding capacity quickly, and we have upgrades to the Megapack that will make it even better. And we had record Powerwall deployments again in Q2. So I think batteries are just going to be a massive thing. The scale of battery demand is, I think, not that many people appreciate just how gigantic the scale of battery demand is. The way to think about it is that the U.S. sustained power output for the U.S. grid is around 1 terawatt. But average usage is less than half a terawatt. If you add batteries to the mix, you can run the power plants 24/7 at full capacity, thus doubling, more than doubling, the energy output per year of the United States, just with batteries. But that's again, big deal. It's a really big deal. Optimus. So we're evolving the Optimus design and really getting Optimus to the point where it is a phenomenal design. So we're an Optimus version 2 right now, sort of 2.5. Optimus 3 is an exquisite design, in my opinion, and will be an incredible. As I've said many times before, it predicted it will be the biggest product ever. It's a very hard problem to solve. You have to design every part of it from physics first principles. There's nothing that's off the shelf that actually works. So you've got to design every motor, gearbox, power electronics, control electronics, sensors, the mechanical elements. We've also got to train Optimus to use its lens and its sensors with a neural net. But we'll be applying the same techniques that we apply for a car, which is essentially a four-wheeled robot, and Optimus is a robot with arms and legs. So the same principles that apply to optimizing AI inference on the car apply to Optimus, because they're both really robots in different forms. And Tesla, it is important to note that Tesla is by far the best in the world at real-world AI. Like a clear proof point for that would be if you compare, say, Tesla to Waymo. Waymo's got, the car is festooned with God knows how many sensors. And yet, isn't Google good at AI? Yes, but they're not good at real-world AI. Thus far, Tesla is actually much better than Google by far, and much better than anyone at real-world AI. And by far, Tesla has the best inference efficiency. I think a key figure of merit for AI is what is the intelligence per gigabyte? And people talk about parameters, blah blah blah. But I think we'll stop talking about parameters and talk about gigabytes, because with the parameters you can have 4-bit parameters, 8-bit parameters, 16-bit parameters, but the actual constraints in the hardware are how many gigabytes of RAM and how many gigabytes per second can you transfer from RAM. Therefore, it is not a parameter constraint. It is a byte constraint. Tesla has the highest intelligence density of any AI by far. And I have a lot of insight into this with XAI. XAI is, Grok is the smartest AI overall, but it's Grok 4 is a giant beast. Sort of at the terabyte level. So it's kind of important to note Tesla has the best intelligence density. And intelligence density will be a very big deal in the future. It is now. So with Optimus 3, which is really the right design, it's like it doesn't have, at this point, there's no significant flaws with the Optimus 3 design. But we are going to retool a bunch of things, so it'll probably be prototypes of Optimus 3 end of this year, and then scale production next year. We're going to try to scale Optimus production as fast as it's humanly possible to do so, and try to get to 1 million units a year as quickly as possible. I think we can get there in less than 5 years. That's my sort of, I guess. That's a reasonable aspiration, is 1 million units a year. 5 years. It seems like an achievable target. So, So in conclusion, so far 2025 has been a very exciting year. A lot of major milestones. We've made clear, demonstrable progress in autonomy that a lot of naysayers said we would not achieve. But it's worth noting that we have done what we said we were going to do. Doesn't mean we're always on time, but we get it done. And our naysayers are sitting there with egg on their face. So great progress by the Tesla team. I do think if Tesla continues to execute well with vehicle autonomy and humanoid robot autonomy, it will be the most valuable company in the world. It's a lot of execution between here and there. It doesn't just happen. But provided we execute very well, I think Tesla has a shot at being the most valuable company in the world. Anyway, obviously, I'm extremely optimistic about the future of the company. Best way to predict the future is to make it happen, and we're making it happen here with the Tesla team. So I'd just like to say thanks to all of our supporters, and I think we've got an incredibly exciting future.
Great. Thank you very much, Elon. And Deadlock has opening remarks as well.
Travis, as Elon mentioned, Q2 was an interesting quarter in a few respects. We started ramping up the production of the new Model Y at all our factories. We rolled out our Robotaxi service in Austin and delivered a car completely autonomously directly from the factory to the customer's home. It is a seminal point to get to this thing. I mean, it took a lot of effort, and I really want to thank everybody at Tesla to make this happen. It wasn't an easy thing to do, but we did it. It took time, but we've just begun the next phase for the company. The one big bill has a lot of changes that would affect our business in the near term. The first among those changes is the repeal of the IRA EV credit of $7,500 by the end of this quarter. Given the abrupt change, we have limited supply of vehicles in the US this quarter, as we are already within lead times to order parts to build cars. We've rolled out all our planned incentives already, and we'll start pairing them back as we start to sell. If you're in the US and looking to buy a car, place your order now, as we may not be able to guarantee delivery for orders placed in the later part of August and beyond. The bill also made changes to certain emission standards by reducing the amount of penalty to zero. This in turn will have an impact on the new sales of regulatory credits to other OEMs, and in turn will lead to lower revenues. While we've never planned our business around such sales, it will nonetheless impact our total revenues going forward. On the automotive product portfolio, the entire lineup is updated. Globally, we're seeing an increase in the number of test drives. We started the production of the lower cost model as planned in the first half of 2025. However, given our focus on building and delivering as many vehicles as possible in the US before the EV credit expires, and the additional complexity of ramping a new product, the ramp will happen next quarter, slower than initially expected. One thing which is grossly underappreciated, and Elon talked about it, is that all our vehicles in the lineup are capable of autonomy. This is by far the biggest differentiator between us and the competition. Our vehicles top safety standard as is, but with FSD, they are and will continue to set a new standard for safety within vehicular transportation. We published our vehicle safety report earlier today, and you can see a car on FSD is 10x safer than a car not on FSD. We've started seeing an uptick in FSD adoption in North America in recent months, which is a very promising trend. And just to give you perspective, since the launch of, since we moved to version 12 of FSD, we've seen the adoption rates really increase. We've started seeing on the automotive revenue front, despite reduction in regulatory credit revenue, and the total automotive revenue increased by 19% sequentially, even though total deliveries only improved 14%. This was primarily due to an improved ASPs because of the new Model Y. This helped in improving margins sequentially as well, along with improved mix and higher fixed cost absorption, despite an increase in costs from tariffs. We started seeing the impact of tariffs in our P&L. Sequentially, the cost of tariffs increased around $300 million, with approximately 2/3 of that impact in automotive and rest in energy. However, given the latency in manufacturing and sales, the full impacts will come through in the following quarters, and so costs will increase in the near term. While we are doing our best to manage these impacts, we are in an unpredictable environment on the tariff front. The margins for the energy generation and storage businesses improved sequentially, while deployment reduced, primarily due to the ramp of power deployments at higher margins. We were able to achieve our highest gross profit for the business yet. Note that the overall deployments will continue to vary quarter to quarter. I think Elon covered this, that industrial storage will make a difference in this drive towards AI and data center growth. The energy requirements are increasing at a rapid scale as AI applications are very energy hungry. The quickest path to scale up energy is deploying storage. This is something that our customers have started realizing, and despite this business having the largest impacts from tariffs, we're seeing customers willing to accept some of the tariff impacts. The big bill has certain adverse impacts even for the energy business, most notably on the residential storage business due to the early expiration of consumer credits by the end of this year. The challenges of the storage business therefore remain both from the bill and from tariffs, and we're doing our best to try and manage through this, but we will see shifts in demand and profitability. The margins for our service and other businesses improves sequentially, primarily due to higher profits from supercharging and improvement in insurance and service center profitability. Operating expenses also grew sequentially as we continued our investment in AI projects, including additional expenses related to employee-related costs, including higher stock-based compensation and depreciation for AI compute. Our operating expenses, especially R&D related spend, will continue to grow. We believe even in the current environment, it is the right strategy to keep making investments in these areas to position us for the long term. Other income grew sequentially, primarily from the mark-to-market adjustment on Bitcoin holdings, which was $284 million gain in Q2, while being $125 million loss in Q1. Just want to remind people that this would keep creating volatility based on the Bitcoin pricing. While operating cash flows increased sequentially, so did our Capex, resulting in $146 million of free cash flow. We continue to make investments in various aspects of manufacturing, like the Cybercab, semi lines, and other manufacturing spend, and the expansion of our AI initiatives. Our latest expectation for the year in terms of Capex is in excess of $9 billion. To summarize, we have near-term challenges in our business due to the negative impacts of the bill and tariffs. However, the investments that we have made for AI, robotics, and our lead in energy sets us up for a bright future. I would like to thank the whole Tesla team, our customers, our investors, and supporters for their continued belief in us.
Great. Thank you very much, Vaibhav. So now we're going to move on to say.com questions. The first question is, can you give us some insight how robotaxis have been performing so far, and what rate you expect to expand in terms of vehicles, geofence, cities, and supervisors?
Yeah, Robotaxi has been doing great so far in Austin. Customers really love the experience. It's like super smooth, very safe, and like just a great experience overall. And we already did the first wave of expansion in Austin, and we'll continue to expand in Austin to probably more than 10x our current operating region. We're also testing in a lot of other cities, as Elon mentioned. The next thing to expand would be in the San Francisco Bay Area. We are working with the government to get approval here, and in the meanwhile, launch the service with the person in the driver's seat just to expedite, and while we wait for regulatory approval. We're also testing a lot of other cities in the US, including Florida, Nevada, etc.
Great. Thank you very much, Ashok. The next question is, what are the key technical and regulatory hurdles still remaining for unsupervised FSD to be available for personal use? Can you provide a timeline?
We're certainly getting there. I think it'll be available for unsupervised personal use by the end of this year in certain geographies. We're just being very careful about it. So.
This is not something which we want to rush.
No.
We want to make sure that everything is safe before we make it available broadly.
Yeah, we're just being extremely paranoid.
Yes.
But I'm confident that by the end of this year, within a number of cities in the U.S., it'll be available to end users.
Yeah, and for what it's worth, the same AI hardware in the Austin Robotaxi vehicles has some customer vehicles, and
right.
We did deliver a car autonomously from the factory to a customer this quarter.
Yes.
And every Tesla manufactured in the US and in Europe autonomously drives itself from the end of line to the loading docks. And so it's just a software upgrade away.
Yeah. I think we'll end up delivering cars in the greater Boston area and the Bay Area by default from the factory by the end of this year. Like a car will deliver itself to where you are, unless you say you don't want that.
It'll be super cool.
Yeah.
Great. Thank you, guys. The next question is, what specific factory tasks is Optimus currently performing, and what is the expected timeline for scaling production to enable external sales? How does Tesla envision Optimus contributing to revenue the next 2 to 3 years?
Yeah. So the Optimus 3 design, as I mentioned earlier, is, I think, finally the right design. There will be further optimizations, but there are no fundamental changes that are needed for the Optimus 3 design. It has all the degrees of freedom that you really want or need. So we'll have prototypes of that in, I don't know, 3 or 3 months, and then start tooling in production. We'll certainly start production on that in the beginning of next year. The production ramp is difficult. It's always difficult to predict the S-curve of a production ramp when something has got when everything is new, because the rate of production will move as fast as the least lucky and least competent element of the entire supply chain, as well as internal processes. So the more new stuff that is in a product, the slower the ramp could be because of unexpected supply chain interruptions or mistakes made internally. It's much easier to predict sort of the end of the S-curve or late in the S-curve than the beginning of the S-curve. And the beginning of the S-curve of the production ramp is, in any case, not really material for revenue purposes. The beginning of the S-curve, you're always negative gross margin, and you're debugging a lot of issues. So that's why, like, I feel like fairly confident in predicting things, or at least medium confident in predicting where we are in 5 years, but it's hard to predict where we are in a year or 2 years. So that's why I think 5 years. I think we could be at the. Let me put this way: I'd be surprised if at the end of 5 years, 60 months from now, if we are not roughly making 100,000 Optimus robots a month in 60 months, I would be shocked.
All right. Thank you very much. Next question is, can you provide an update on the development and production timeline for Tesla's more affordable models? How will these models balance cost reduction and profitability, and what impact do you expect on demand in the current economic climate?
Well, I think Vaibhav did a good job of answering this question in his opening remarks. As we said, we started production in June, and we're ramping quality builds and things around the quarter. And given that we started in North America and that our goal is to maximize production with a higher rate cliff ending in Q3, we're going to keep pushing hard on our current models to avoid complexity. Then, fortunately, when that rolls away, we'll be ready with the new, more affordable models available for everyone in Q4. And the goal of those products was not to negatively impact revenue or gross margin, but just to make a car that everyone loves and wants at a more affordable price.
Great. Thank you, Lars. The next question is, can you talk about the benefits of Tesla investing in XAI?
This is not the forum to discuss this topic. I mean, if there is something which we need to discuss, we'll discuss it separately.
I think obviously, we're a publicly traded company. Shareholders are welcome to put forward any shareholder proposals that they'd like. I've recently encouraged that, and then have shareholders vote, and we'll act in accordance with the shareholder wishes.
Great. Thank you very much. The next question is, can you tell us a little bit more about what goes on in the Tesla design studio?
Do you want me to take that one? We kind of generally say that what happens in the studio stays in the studio, and that earnings calls are not the place to disclose new product stuff. But we're working to make sure that we have an exciting future for our Tesla and the product lineup.
Yeah, there's a lot of exciting things happening in the design studio. It's not like static. And really, what's going to happen over the next several years is a fundamental transformation of the company from a pre-autonomy world to a post-autonomy. And I'm working on a new master plan to articulate that Tesla team. And there will be some teething pains as you transition from a pre-autonomy to a post-autonomy world, but I think the future vision for Tesla is incredibly exciting, and will profoundly change the world in a good way. This may sound like sort of hype or whatever, but I think let's just say if we execute on that plan effectively, which is you have to actually do that, Tesla will be the most valuable company in the world by far.
Great, thank you. The next question is actually a duplicate on unsupervised FSD for customer vehicles, so we'll skip that. After that is, are there any news for Hardware 3 users getting retrofits or upgrades? Will they get Hardware 4 or some future version of Hardware 5?
I mean, what we want to do is we want to get unsupervised done on Hardware 4 first. Once it's done, then we'll go back and look at what we need to do with the Hardware 3 cars. I mean, like I said, the focus is first to get unsupervised out, and then we'll go back and see what more work we need to do.
Great. The next question is, can you give an update on Dojo, and could XAI be a customer for Dojo?
Dojo 2, we expect to have Dojo 2 operating at scale sometime next year, with scale being somewhere around 100K H100 equivalents. And then AI5, which is really a spectacular chip. I don't use those words lightly. It's spectacular chip. The AI5 chip will be hopefully be in volume production around the end of next year. But that has a lot of potential. I think thinking about Dojo 3 and the AI6 inference chip, it seems like intuitively we want to try to find convergence there, where it's basically the same chip, but is used where we use, say, 2 of them in a car or an Optimus, and maybe a larger number on a board, like kind of 512 on a board or something like that. If you want high bandwidth communication between the chips at a force surveying, doing it burn surveying. That sort of seems like intuitively the sensible way to go.
Great. The next set of questions have all actually been covered. So we'll end with how will the BBB elimination of tax credits for solar projects affect your sales pipeline for Megapack?
Yeah, our sales pipeline is quite diversified across customers and market segments. So we aren't heavily weighted in Megapack projects that are paired with solar. And as we talked about in the opening remarks, we're seeing storage quickly being recognized for its ability to unlock grid efficiency and how quickly it can be deployed to help the grid. Additionally, although the recent bill was not favorable towards solar, we believe solar projects will still get built because the energy is necessary, the projects are well developed, and they're ready for execution. And there's really no alternatives in the near term given gas turbine lead times and pricing. We also continue to see growth in the data center segment and in standalone storage projects providing capacity to the grid in several markets across the US. Overall, we're forecasting a very strong second half of the year as we increase deployments. And lastly, we continue to invest heavily in US manufacturing to mitigate policy and tariff impacts, expecting our first LFP cell manufacturing facility to be online by the end of the year and launching our third megafactory near Houston in 2026.
Great. Thank you, Mike. We will now be moving to analyst questions. The first question comes from Emmanuel Rosner at Wolfe Research. Emmanuel, please feel free to unmute yourself whenever you're ready.
Great. Thank you so much. Can you hear me?
Yep.
Thanks. So Elon, are you able to share any KPIs with us in terms of the Robotaxi business? How many vehicles are you operating, miles driven autonomously, or the number of safety critical intervention? Just curious, how the rollout it generally is going and any sort of like targets that you could share more broadly.
Sure.
Yeah, we have more than 7,000 miles operating in Austin area. It's just because service is new, we have a handful of vehicles right now, but then we are trying to expand the service in terms of both the area and also the number of vehicles both in Austin and other locations. So far, there's like no notable safety critical incidents. There, sometimes we have our own restrictions as to, for example, we restrict our speed limit to 40 miles per hour roads. And if the vehicle wants to go on like higher speed roads, we can stop the vehicle, but those are out of convenience as opposed to safety critical nature. So far the service has been really well received and we continue to expand on it.
Great. And then, longer term, from an economics point of view, longer term, you've previously talked about working to drive down the cost per mile on robotaxis, maybe towards 30 or 40 cents per mile over time. Now that your service is live, how should we think about the main milestones to getting there?
Yeah, well, the Cybercab which is really optimized for autonomy. That I think has got probably sub 30 cent per mile potential over time, maybe 25. It's really like if you design a car from scratch to be a cost optimized robotic taxi like Cybercab. Like for example, we're not trying to make it corner like incredibly well like a Model 3 would, or Model S or even Model Y. Like it's got all of our cars that are driven by people are super fun to drive. They've got incredible acceleration, the incredible cornering capability. But we're confident that very few people in a Cybercab want to be hurtling around. So we reduced the top end speed, which means we can use more efficient tires. We don't need as much acceleration. We don't need as much you know, big breaks to sort of, we want stopping distance, but we're not expecting it to be heavily used. It's a gentle ride. Essentially, if you design it for a gentle ride, and then you have a much more optimized design point. So that's why it seems probable it would achieve that, especially if Optimus is, serving, cleaning up the car and doing maintenance and stuff. Doing automatic charging. I think it's going to, the actual cost per mile of Cybercab will be very low. The cost per mile of our existing fleet will be higher, but it's still very competitive. So, maybe some number of 50 cents, I'm just guessing. So this really, Tesla's robotaxi fleet will go from tiny to gigantic in terms of operations in a pretty short period of time. Like, my guess is it has a material impact on our financials around the end of next year.
Great. Thank you very much. The next question comes from Adam at Morgan Stanley. Adam, please unmute yourself.
Great. Hello, everybody. So Elon, as Tesla moves into this next phase of physical AI, autonomous humanoids, robotaxis, etc., world-changing, civilizational species-changing technology with dual purpose, are you comfortable moving Tesla in this direction while only having a 13% stake in the economy? In the company? Is that sustainable, or do you still insist that something needs to happen, given your current lack of control and the types of technologies you're getting into?
Yeah, that is a major concern for me, as I've mentioned in the past, and I hope that is addressed at the upcoming shareholders meeting. It is a big deal. I want to find that I've got so little control that I can easily be ousted by activist shareholders after having built, this army of humanoid robots. I think that, as I mentioned before, I think my control over Tesla should be enough to ensure that it goes in a good direction, but not so much control that I can't be thrown out if I go crazy.
Okay, Elon, you're not going to go crazy. We trust you.
Well,
you can stay a little crazy. A little crazy is okay. Elon, though, we understand the board of directors of a major U.S. investment bank recently toured Optimus production. I don't know if you want to confirm that or not. It's just what we've heard. That's cool. But when do you think others will be able to get a firsthand view of Optimus like that? And is the second half of this year too soon to have an AI day? Because it seems like everybody else in the world's doing it, and this talent war is getting freaking crazy. And I know you mentioned for recruiting purposes, this is a very important thing that you've done. I think people have copied you on this, and I'm wondering if this year's too early for that. Thanks, Elon.
Yeah, it's a bit of a tough thing, because when we're doing AI Day, we find that some of our competitors have literally done a frame-by-frame examination of our slides and everything we say, and then copy us. I'm saying, what's the trade-off? It does help with recruiting, but then competitors look very closely and copy us. That said, we should probably, I guess we could consider the shareholder meeting to be sort of we can maybe go into depth, some amount of depth at the annual shareholder meeting with respect to Optimus and AI and sort of our chip stuff, perhaps. Tesla's also really underrated in terms of AI chip design, as well as AI software. There's still not a chip that exists that we would prefer to put in our car that is an AI chip that we would prefer to put in the car over our own. And even though it's been now out for several years, and we're confident that the AI5 chip will be a profound game changer. In fact, it's so powerful that we'll have to nerf it to some degree for markets outside of the US because it blows way past the export restrictions. So unless the export restrictions change, we actually will have to nerf our AI5 chip, which is kind of weird. Hopefully we keep raising the bar on export restrictions. Otherwise, it gets a bit silly. But we'll have a bunch of Optimus robots on stage at the shareholder meeting. The Optimus lab is cool to see. It basically looks like the set of Westworld. You could robots in various stages. Some of them are, in various stages of repair. Like I don't know, some combination of like the Tatooine junkyard and Westworld. That's what it looks like. It's very cool. And Optimus is walking around the office here in Palo Alto. So just 24/7 is just walking around like it's normal. And you saw Optimus like the Tesla diner serving popcorn. So we'll go from a world where robots are rare to where they're so common that you don't even look up.
Great. Thank you so much. The next question comes from Edison at Deutsche Bank. Edison, please unmute yourself. Edison, please go ahead and unmute yourself. All right, while Edison figures that out, we will go to the next question, which is going to come from Dan Levi at Barclays. Dan, please go ahead and unmute yourself.
Great, thank you. Elon, you've talked about the opportunity to put non-Tesla owned vehicles into the Robotaxi network. Could you just talk about the gating factors to enabling that and what timeline we should expect on personally owned vehicles in the Robotaxi network?
We haven't really thought hard about that. We need to make sure it works when the vehicles are fully under our control. It's kind of one step at a time here. We don't want to jump the gun. As I said, we're being paranoid about safety. So it's like, but I guess it would like next year is, I'd say confidently next year. I'm not sure when next year, but confidently next year, people would be able to add or subtract their car to the Tesla fleet.
I mean, one thing to keep in mind is that we will have some criteria because like even when you put your car in an Uber or Lyft fleet, they go through a whole checklist process of making sure things are working.
It's like an Airbnb or
yes.
Bad,
yeah, so we will do something like that.
Kind of vetting process.
Yes. Because we want, like Elon said, we want to be paranoid about security. I mean, small things like tread on the tire can have an impact on safety. So that's why we would want to do some proper validation before we let other cars come in.
Dan, do you have a follow-up?
Yes, thank you. Could you just unpack the different costs associated with scaling the Robotaxi business and how you think about funding those costs? Are the cash flows in the auto business sufficient to fund it? And if not, what other funding sources do you think you'd use? Would you just fund it off the balance sheet?
Well, as soon as there is a clear cash flow stream associated with any product, you can debt finance it.
And in the interim?
I mean, in the interim, we will use our balance sheet, but like once we get to a certain scale in terms of recurring revenues, like Elon said, we could get into easily a kind of transaction to try and get funding.
Great. Thanks so much. We will now move on to Mark from Goldman Sachs. Mark, please feel free to unmute yourself.
Yes, good afternoon. Thank you very much for taking the questions. With the FSD trials that Tesla has been offering to consumers and the attention on self-driving more generally, are you able to comment more specifically on what you're seeing with FSD subscription trends and take rates, and help us better understand how large FSD revenue may be currently?
So we've definitely, like I mentioned it in my opening remarks, since we've launched version 12 of FSD in North America, we've definitely seen a marked improvement in the FSD adoption. And the other thing which we had also done last year is we did bring down the pricing, and we made subscription much more affordable. So we have seen, 25% increase since that time. So, which is an encouraging trend. But honestly, we've just started the story around explaining the benefits of FSD. Like I said before, we released our vehicle safety report. Even if you don't believe in this, anything else, a car on FSD being 10x safer should be a motivator. Plus, the other thing is, people don't realize even at $99 a month, it's like you're getting a personal chauffeur for almost $3.33 a day. And this is by far the biggest game changer, which I know we've been talking about it because part of it is we live and breathe it, but
yeah,
I feel
most people still don't know.
Yeah.
But the vast majority of people don't know it exists. And it's still like half of Tesla owners who could use it haven't tried it even once. They don't actually realize that. Obviously, this is something we want to educate them on. So we've got to, when they come in for service, we'll reach out to them, send them like videos of how to make it work. It's such a shocking thing. They don't think a car is capable of this. So you have to show them and get them comfortable with turning it on and off. It's so trivial, but it's like saying you've got a cat that can sing and dance, but it just looks like a normal cat. And you're like, until you see the cat sing and dance and talk, you assume it's just a cat. That's Tesla FSD.
Yes.
Our car is intelligent.
And so what we're going to do, to Elon's point, like we've been giving people free time to try the FSD, but we'll start giving more prompts to say, okay, this particular drive, try FSD. So that, because it's literally seeing is believing. Like Elon said, think of it like a cat. It looks like a normal cat, but this cat can sing and dance.
Yeah.
Same thing on
It's
FSD.
intelligent.
Great, yeah. And the 25% comment was 25% increase in the penetration rate since we've seen the release of V12 and V13 in North America. Great. Thank you. Mark, did you have a follow-up question?
Yeah, thanks, Travis. Tesla has historically said it would use pricing as one tool to help drive auto vehicle growth as long as free cash flow stayed positive, given the ability to monetize products like FSD. I'm curious how you're thinking about pricing from here as a potential tool to drive increased volumes, given where you stand with FSD, as well as the fact that the IRA purchase tax credits are poised to go away in the US starting in the fourth quarter. So should we expect more meaningful price reductions given that monetization potential, or do you envision price reductions being more limited compared to cost downs given where free cash flow now stands? Thanks.
Well, we're in this weird transition period where we'll lose a lot of incentives in the US. We still have incentives actually in many other parts of the world, but we'll lose them in the US. But we'll still be at the relatively early stages of autonomy. On the other hand, autonomy is most advanced and most available from a regulatory standpoint in the US. So, does that mean we could have a few rough quarters? Yeah, we probably could have a few rough quarters. I'm not saying we will, but we could. Q4, Q1, maybe Q2. But once you get to autonomy at scale in the second half of next year, certainly by the end of next year, I think I would be surprised if Tesla's economics are not very compelling.
Great. The next question is going to come from Will from Truist. Will, please feel free to unmute yourself when you're ready.
Great. Thanks so much for taking my questions. First, I'd like to ask for a little bit more detail about the lower cost model that you talked about having, I think, started production in the first half, but you said will ramp later. At the last Analyst Day, as I recall, you talked about some aspects of this, like two-thirds or three-quarters reduction in silicon carbide and not using rare earths in the motor and perhaps other cost downs. You also had this unboxed architecture that I think you said would not be part of this sort of interim approach. Can you update us on what we should expect this thing to actually look like?
Well, we won't get into the looks because
What's the Model Y? Just lift the cat out of the bag there. Dancing cat that can sing and dance, but it can talk and sing and dance though. That's the cool part. Yeah, I mean, the fundamentally the biggest obstacle remains that people just don't have enough. Some people don't. The desire to buy the car is very high. Just people don't have enough money in the bank account to buy it. Literally, that is the issue. Not a lack of desire, but a lack of ability. So the more affordable we can make the car, the better. I think it's going to be. It will be a very big deal when people can release their car to the fleet and have it earn money for them. Which, like I said, I feel confident in saying that'll happen next year in the U.S. at least. And in the U.S., we're legally allowed, appropriate disclaimers, and that'll make the affordability dramatically greater. Just like if you have an Airbnb and you can rent out your home when you're not there, or rent out a guest room or guest house or something like that, the affordability of your home is much greater.
Okay. Trying another topic then. We see all these wonderful developments at XAI like Grok, and obviously Tesla's trying to do quite a bit in AI. Elon, how do you manage the division of efforts and recruiting and talent and capital between these two that seem like there's a very high potential that they can in fact compete?
Well, they are doing different things here. The XAI is doing terabyte scale models and multi-terabyte scale models. Tesla's 100 times smaller models. So one's real world AI and one's kind of, artificial superintelligence type of thing. Really kind of the genesis for XAI was that there were certain people who simply would not join Tesla, AI engineers, because they wanted to work on ASI. They would join Tesla. And I was like, well, maybe they'll join a new company. No, I think the Tesla problem is extremely important, but not everyone agrees with me on that. And so rather than have them join, OpenAI or Google or some other company, it's like, might as well have them create a company in that regard, which is XAI. So that's people can make a decision. Do they want to work on super intelligence at data center or real world AI? They're both compelling problems, but some people want to work on one and some want to work on the other.
Great. And unfortunately, that is all the time we have today. Thank you everyone so much for your questions, and we will see you next quarter.
Gotta mute that music. That was great. I was quite pleased with everything I saw. Yeah, the Cybercab we knew was going to have specs like that. It's not going to be human driven. It's got robot grade stuff, not human grade stuff. Yeah, the craziest part to me was FSD has only been tried by 50% of the people who could have tried it. What are you talking about, you guys? How is that even possible? I think we've got a new mission. It's not to convince all the people who've never experienced a Tesla to try FSD. It's to experience the half who should have, who haven't done it yet. Thoughts on that? Nobody?
I just jumped on this, so I don't know what your question was, but if it was, why are we only at 25% FSD adoption rate? That is actually a really good question. Is it education that's lacking? Are people not seeing the added value until it's fully unsupervised? Is it just hesitation of a new technology? Is it, and which of these problems can be solved, or is it going to be automatically solved by the fact that, well, they aim that half of the US population has access to fully unsupervised FSD by the end of the year, which, let me just say that very clearly, I take the under. You know what a fangirl I am, but in 5 months, 160 million US, I mean, obviously there's regulators and all that, but I also just, 5 months pass so quickly. And I think one theme of this whole call was moderation of time expectations. Everything was a little bit slower than hoped for. Everything was a little bit more prudent. And I don't know how you felt. I'm just jumping back into the call, but that was really a little bit okay. I mean, I don't mind moderation. I actually appreciate it. But I'd hoped for a little bit more oomph in the rhythm of everything. Cars, bots, everything.
So one thing, there was many things that were mind-blowing to me, but I hear what you're saying, Alexander, very important. But to say that Robotaxi could serve half the US population by year end, like my head just went boom. But I don't think people, as you say, in 5 months, how is that even possible?
Well, he clarified that technically we'll be able to do it. So that's the confidence. But so let's step back what you just said there, Alexandra. You're right that there's a number of things that was walked back, but the one thing that's most important was not walked back, which is Robotaxi, right? Yep. They're going to get to expansion of the service area in a couple weeks. They're going to have regulatory approval in Bay Area, Arizona, Nevada, and Florida. They feel very confident, it sounded like, for each of those to get. Yeah. Florida was a new one we've been hearing. They're going to have Robotaxi in half the population by the end of the year, subject to regulatory approval. Technically, we'll be able to do it, but being very, very cautious. Just means that, okay, they really feel like this is going to go, and they're just going to slowly get there. A hyper exponential rate of increase in the service area. We don't yet have approval for FSD in Europe, but we're getting approval in the Netherlands, regulatory in China. FSD is the single biggest demand driver, So everything we wanted to hear about Robotaxi, come on. And then, what did you say, James? It said like 10x in parameter improvement.
Oh, and 10x of the area of Austin too is 10x twice.
Oh yeah, that too. Yeah. 10x of Austin and also 10x the parameter count from what is currently experiencing. That's what we're going to see with FSD. FSD is solved, and they're making even better.
Yeah, it's nuts. Yeah.
And to clarify, I didn't hear them say that take rate was 25%. What I heard, and correct me if I was that it increased by 25%.
Increased by 25%.
So if it was 10, then we're only at 12.5. It was at 15. I mean, it's still very small numbers. But what he did say is that 50% plus of the vehicles that have FSD, the drivers have never tried it out.
This is moot to me. This is moot.
No, but it's something I can impact. It's something
FSD take rate is such a non-big deal to me, because what matters is can you do FSD unsupervised? Can you do Robotaxi? FSD rate take rate is going to be 100% by a year, 2 years from now. I'm not worried if it's 10%, 2%, whatever it is today.
Yeah. The other thing that was also huge, in case people didn't get it, was, let me check my notes here. What did I just do? I think I just deleted my notes. No, I have them back here. FSD approvals in Europe and China are imminent. Okay. And he didn't say, he said, something Kafka-esque is how Europe works, but they're even getting through it, which is really incredible.
Yeah, but I mean, James, to be honest, that was supposed to happen middle of May. Now we're end of July,
Sure.
and you and everybody else who's been living in Europe, including me, know exactly how long this will take and how long they will delay this. So I think the China issue seems to be closer to be solved than the Europe issue, and I'm really sorry. I'm actually really sorry for a couple of folks. Those with hardware 3 hoping for a quick solution, it's not going to be quick. It's going to be hardware 4 for optimization. Hardware 5 is actually now late 2026. So anybody waiting for a new Tesla for hardware 5, forget about it. Jump on the train this time.
That's been delayed.
7500 or wait for whatever else comes after that. But don't wait for hardware 5. That is just or AI 5. That's just not going to happen. The hardware 3 people are going to wait for a long time. So you may actually also think about whether it's worth upgrading now. I mean, if FSD is important to you, and I have made the change from a hardware 3 Model X to a AI 4 Model Y, it is so smooth. It is so worth it. I mean, the car actually cost me a third on my leasing rate, and it's a better car. So it's crazy. It's crazy to not go on the current offer of the Model Y with AI 4. So anybody who was, sort of hoping this would happen soon, or it just, I think it may happen at one point, but what they're trying to do is really delay it as much as possible so that most people jump on the current models on AI 4 and don't do that. The other thing where I found it was a bit thin today was on the progress of Optimus. And I understand. Yeah, I did change my glasses because we're back from all Greenland to more nuance. So I've got green and red now again. So
it's not Christmas.
There we are. But the one point about Optimus that I give them the slack is that we may hear more about Optimus at the shareholder meeting. But honestly, I mean, it's nice if we have demos and all that, but a shareholder meeting is not about showing Optimus. A shareholder meeting really should, address the stuff that's happened in the proxy and then have some outlook. But I mean, whatever it is, and I understand that they, are prudent. The Optimus rate of manufacturing has been severely cut down, right? Get that right again. It was 100,000 per month in 2026.
5 years.
5 years or no?
5 years. Sorry, in 5 years, exactly in 5 years. So sorry about that. So I think that was the bitter pill that I really didn't want to hear, because that is much less than before, right? We were supposed to be at 1 million CERN at end of 2026, correct?
Yeah, and this is really weird for me because Elon keeps talking about how they're going to scale Optimus faster than any product ever in history. And 100,000 a month, that's 1.2 million a year. That's equivalent to maybe about 250,000 cars in 5 years. That's nothing for Tesla. That's not an impressive,
a huge scale.
Scale. Now, now maybe
what I didn't like, sorry to interrupt you, what I didn't like was like, oh, I have little visibility for the next 12 months, so I'm going to give you a 5 years goal that we for sure will get. That's not what we're asking. That's not what we're asking.
I think it does speak maybe some of the issues in terms of scaling up this supply network for Optimus, which brand new product, these actuators, making the amount that they're going to need is going to be a massive effort. So, perhaps he's starting to realize maybe some of the challenges with that. But that's a little disappointing because, he also continues to talk about, again, how quickly Optimus is going to scale. I mentioned that before. And so which is it? Right? One day he talks about, not scaling very quickly. The next day he's talking about big, massive numbers of Optimus. And it's just, I wish he'd just be more consistent about that.
Yeah. Agree.
Yeah, the whole call as well. I mean, they were saying some mind-blowing stuff. Like one of the other big things was that I think they said AI 5 would be too good for export, and they have to nerf it. I don't know what the term nerf means. I guess it's deprecated somehow.
Deprecated, yeah.
Yeah.
There we go, learning again.
For export restrictions. I thought that was incredible, but the way they handled the call, it sounded like a funeral. Like there's no enthusiasm, and they're dropping bombs, but there's like, yeah, the AI5 is too good for expert. I mean, holy shit! It was
True.
just incredible. And then he said, I guess, some words to the effect of, Optimus 3 is sublime. It's incredible, you know. And again, but they say it with, I don't know,
He was
total
down.
depression. And the new master plan coming as well for Elon to explain the pre-autonomy world to the post-autonomy world. I thought that was huge. But he did say we're going to be the biggest company in the world, but it requires execution. So it tempered everything a lot. And stock is down $16 in after hours, which is shocking. But the analysts will go look at CERN's charts from a few hours ago and say, you know what, this earnings is really big, and things are on the cusp of really turning around. So I do expect it to rebound tomorrow. Brian, what do you think?
I mean, I'm really bad in short-term stocks, so let me preface that. But I have the feeling that this is just going to be one of those earnings calls that are going to be forgotten, right? I am disappointed that we didn't get more clarity. I'm also utterly disappointed about the oral skills of our CFO, but also of some others. I mean, I can't believe this. This company is moving the world.
Yeah, I'll argue with you there.
Organize. It drives me crazy. This is such an easy thing to do. I mean, Nick has a bad mic, right? But Elon, where are we?
Yeah, but
I don't have a bad mic.
He's just got a hot mic. No, yeah, I would say that the CFO says the company's already rolled out all the vehicle incentives it plans to introduce in the US in Q3, and at the end of the quarter, as it gets closer, they'll start to remove some of those due to limited supply. Just make as many cars as you can, really, is my thought. I don't know how hard that is. I thought capacity is something we had. And the one bright spot to me was, and I saw a few bright spots, Robotaxi should have a meaningful impact on financials by the end of next year. That means they have to start today. That means that they're going to be ramping aggressively. That's how I'm reading that. And the fact that they're not going to release hardware 5 until mid to late next year means they plan to have unsupervised done by then, because they want to get unsupervised done on AI4 before.
They don't need AI5 for unsupervised or robotaxi.
Right. That's what I mean is, but they're not going to release AI5 until all the exact. I mean, you have to solve it first. So I think that's a bright spot. Those two things were bright spots for me.
And AI5 and Dojo, it sounds like he's going to converge them into the same thing.
Yeah, one would have 5 to 12 chips. A car will have 2. Or Optimus will have 2, and he said 5 to 12 on the board for, I guess, whatever that board is. That was interesting, but again, light on details.
Now, let me little bit be conspiracy theorist, and I'm usually not, because I'm not, and I was really very enthusiastic going into this earnings call. But if you would be Elon, and if you are going into an earnings call that is the last one that will determine what is written in the proxy, right? The proxy is going to be out middle of September. We don't have an earnings call between now and then. And in that proxy will be your compensation plan, which will have multiple multipliers of a current stock price. Would you be in a mood to get the stock price up?
No.
Or not?
Yeah, we had the exact same conversation probably a year ago, Alexandra. And my theory back then, he wants to keep the price suppressed until he can get his comp plan in. It's no good if the price is already at 600 and he's going to try pump it to 3,000. It's better to have it at 150. That's exactly logical. We said that a year ago on this show.
Yeah, maybe
I don't like it. But remember, Herbert, I was telling you I still got these 30,000 lying around. I just have this feeling that it's
stock's going to fall. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, they will have to determine what is the base stock price when they publish that proxy middle of September. And so we'll see how they do it. I may be completely wrong. And again, I don't like being in this.
When did they decide that, Alexandra?
Well, until end of July, they have to wait if shareholder proposals come in for things to vote on, right? So at one moment, we thought we have to bring forward an XAI vote. And I called out to people saying anybody has directly registered shares, because that's the easiest way to do an official shareholder proposal. What I'm always doing with my questionnaires and all that is all cute, but that's not official enough. I mean, it gives them some thing to think about and some coverage, but if you really want to do it properly, you need a shareholder that either has a very good custodian that gives you the right papers, or you have directly registered shares. So if you do have that, you can just write a shareholder proposal. It's not that easy, but with Grok now you can do it quite easily. That will be sent before July 31st to the board, and then they have to consider it. There is a way of getting out of that question. If it is too ridiculous, they can ask the SEC to discard it. But if it's valid, they have to include it in the voting agenda for the shareholder meeting. 31st of July is that date. So before 31st of July, no proxy can be written, but it will be published anytime between September 12th and September 22nd. I did all those calculations. So they have in the middle about 6 weeks to write it. And as I explained a lot of times, when you write it, you also reach out to the Vanguards, BlackRocks, and whatsoever of this world, because since they have 7-8% each, you want to make sure that you phrase it a way that they can be agreeable. I mean, they will not tell you in advance that they are agreeable, but they will tell you, this is sort of a soft exchange of, how we can all understand each other. So there's a lot of things happening, and there are two big subjects: XAI and how this is phrased. Is it an exchange of shares? Is it really an investment against cash? What I clearly heard today is that they are very prudent with the 36 billion that are left. So I'm moving more and more away from my idea that we're putting 5 billion cash into XAI. I'm more coming to
They won't give cash; they'll do stock. Yeah.
So let me just finish on my question. So they have these 6 weeks between beginning of August and when it's printed. It's probably printed before the date of record, which is September 8th, if I recall it right. So they have more or less 5 weeks there. And that's where they will have to determine what is that base stock price to which then the multipliers of the options of Elon will apply.
So what I hear you saying is if you're going to use Grok to write your shareholder proposal, don't use unhinged mode. I don't know. It does look like the idea of actually just buying or merging with XAI is off the table. As I tried to point out, I don't know that Elon would want to do it, and he confirmed that, I don't think I want shareholders being able to determine the course of this company, where at least with a small group of investors, they're easier cats to herd. And of course, we did get the news that we will have singing and dancing cats, which I'm very excited about.
Mm-hmm. Alexandra, Adam Jonas asked, as Tesla moves to physical AI, are you comfortable moving Tesla in this direction when you only have 30% stake right now? Elon's answer was, yes, it's a major concern for me. I hope that it's addressed at the upcoming shareholder meeting. That's good news. That means I think they already have a plan in place that they've already settled with the board of how he's going to get his 25% voting control.
Yes, and I said that many times before, so I'm going to keep it short because I have all these wonderful contacts thinking I've talked much too much. Please, you all come up here and talk more. For me, the easiest solution to give him more voting power, but not more shares, is to introduce Class B shares with higher voting shares. And if they do that, and if the institutionals agree, I'm sure the retail investors wouldn't mind. I hear from so many retail investors that actually want to give him all the voting rights they have. But if they find a way of putting the right multiplier there, maybe a multiplier of 2 or maximum 3, whatever, then that would be an easy way. And that is doable now in Texas. That was not doable in Delaware. So this could be the moment. I also think another point will be to start remunerating the board again. Our board has not been remunerated since 2020. So there are 3 directors who have to be reconfirmed. This is going to be a heavy proxy. Yes.
I heard good things about energy and the outlook for energy, even for the second half of this year. So that was favorable. And then getting the Houston factory up and running in 2026. But I think, again, strong hints that we should expect a strong second half for energy, which is nice. How much of that offsets some of the other weakness in areas. I'm not sure, but that's favorable.
Well, 30% margins on billions of dollars doesn't hurt.
Yep.
No.
And we keep seeing endless announcements for bigger and bigger battery installations around the world. These are what you would hope to see in an industry that we all thought was going to grow the way it has. And worth noting, Tesla is not the only game in battery energy storage systems. Every company makes them. It's just that so far, Tesla has maintained its position as the gold standard. They just make better systems. They are less prone to error or failure. They are more expensive, but worth it because it's about value. It doesn't matter if it's free if it ends up costing you more in the long run.
Yeah, well, as we said at the beginning, the AI data center expansion is the biggest capital investment since railroads in the 1800s. I don't know when railroads began, 1850, 1840, 1860, but it's massive. And to run a data center effectively, you need megapacks. And Elon proved that out. And that's also why he's been stockpiling transformers in Texas. Hundreds of them. So, Nick, what do you think? You've been very quiet. And your hair is looking great, by the way.
Quiet?
Well, how's my mic right now? Was
You're
it too
shouting.
hot?
You're shouting
Just
again.
move it
still
away a
too
bit.
hot, dude.
It's a bit
Am I
hot.
still shouting? How's
That's
it now?
perfect.
Better.
Perfect. All right. I think it was a interesting call. I think his demeanor was a lot like last call, which I found annoying. And I think we need to be able to say it like it is. I think we're all beating around the bush. This was a very bad call for Elon. He, I think, needs to don't squint at me, Alexander. He needs to step up to the plate. Listen, if you're going to come on here and you're going to deliver some good news, some bad news, at least understand how you're coming across. And he doesn't have to care about that at all if he doesn't want to. That's fine. But I do think there's a degree of loyalty a lot of people in the community have towards him. And I think there should be a little reciprocity back from his end. Again, maybe there's a bigger game going on here, like you think, Alexandra. But I just think that if not, just don't show up to the call. Like, you don't need to show up to the call. Like, I just don't understand this coming on there and kind of being a little pouty. But I think to your point earlier, I forget who said it, but there was a lot of really good things said on the call, like a lot of really bullish things, but everything was said pouting. So I don't get it. Like, maybe for all I know, they just got out of a bad meeting where Elon was ripping people's heads apart, and then they got right on the here, and so it's just tensions are high. That's possible, but I'm really excited more than anything based on what they said regarding the expansion in Austin. Like, that's in 2 weeks from now, week and a half now. Like, that's incredible. It sounds like they're going to make a big stamp to just laugh in the face of Waymo. So I think that's going to be exciting. I like to hear a little bit of the competitiveness that Elon, he took a shot out there in Google. I want to see more of that, Elon. So I don't know. I think in general, the call was okay. It had some good tidbits here and there, but I found it lacking. I mean, these last 2 quarters, like, they haven't been the most exciting earnings call. Q4 last year, that was a great earnings call. So
I don't agree, Nick. First of all, last quarter was great, and we were all enthusiastic about it. I don't think anybody last quarter felt it was a bad call. I found it this time very very depressing is not the right word. I want to use the right word, but astonishingly
Somber.
prudent in expectation setting, right? And I mean, it's not as if it was completely as bad as you said, but it was he really tried to bring down expectations.
Why?
And it was no exactly. That's the whole question. That's why I brought in my conspiracy theory earlier. I don't know why.
From my perspective, I am incredibly bullish long term. I'm a little confused short term. Like, one question, for example, about personally owned cars in the Robotaxi network, Elon's response was something like, "We haven't thought about that." It's like, what? He's been talking about that for years, and now you're telling us you haven't thought about it? I mean,
yeah, but on the other side, fully unsupervised by the end of the year. And I was like,
Yeah,
No, but
really?
those
I'm
are
also- I'm
two
also,
different points of view. Those are two
yeah,
different topics.
but they also said that no, they explained, right? Yes, when we implement personal cars, and they have to go through, validation and all that. So Elon himself is basically, I'm focused on the thing that matters now, but my team is working on whether or not we're going to do this, and nothing's been delayed about personal cars being put in. It's still second half of next year, which is what they've always been communicating. So I'm not worried about that comment.
It's not
Why-
that.
why would
It's
he
the way
not say
he
that?
talked about it. Exactly.
They're busy
Like,
with the most
there's-
important thing,
No,
expansion.
but
yeah.
you just said it in a way that's cogent and confidence inspiring. He said it as if like, oh yeah, I forgot about that. Like we haven't even thought about that. It's not even on the roadmap. Kind of. That's how he said it. Like words matter, and those are the words he chose.
And there's no such thing as a conspiracy theory. He's trying to keep a lid on the price. It's
I think
been
you're
the
right.
same. That's logic. Well, you're right. We've talked about this before. It's what any of us would do. He doesn't want to see a $600, $1,000 stock until he gets this package done.
So it won't
It
happen
changes its
until
multiples.
November 6th. Big
Right, it
master
won't
plan
happen
part
really.
4, master plan 4, big show. Yeah. Votes. Wouldn't they have to communicate those votes communicate it before the actual shareholder meeting so that we can all reason why we're going to vote yes?
What do you mean, which votes?
So that he's going to have the
Proxy
XAI investment and his shareholder approval for his
All
compensation
that will
plan.
be all that will be announced in the shareholder meeting, because you actually in America can still vote at the shareholder meeting. If you show up at the shareholder meeting, if you got an invite and haven't voted yet, you can actually vote there. So I mean, not that it makes a difference, a single person voting there anymore, but they cannot announce anything. You remember last year he announced in the middle of the night before, he showed those two charts that showed that we got on taxes over that. That was done exactly, I think it was midnight 01 in Eastern time, because he knew darn well that he shouldn't have done it the day before.
No, I know, but aren't they going to tell us good news prior to the actual shareholder meeting so that you would vote yes the months before?
Are you saying in terms of an enticement to vote, share positive things with shareholders to get them to, sure.
Yeah.
Well,
once the proxy printed.
Yeah. Once the proxy's printed, everything's already settled in terms of his price of where he's at. He's already figured out the shareholder, they will also tell you what his milestones are, and that alone will make the stock skyrocket.
I will believe the conspiracy theory that Alexandra has talked about if he comes out with new bot production numbers instead
Which
of
I think he might. I think
100,000 a month.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I agree. I think he's sandbagging
the
those
most,
numbers.
The most disturbing for me was that 5-year 100,000 per month bot number. Everything else, okay, fair enough. Let's be approximative, whatever. But that one, I was like,
wait,
that is much lower.
Is what he said last quarter. He said 1 million by 2029, maybe 2030. That's what that is. 100,000 per month is 1 million 2030. It's the same number.
That's been pushed back a little bit, I think, and also just overall, a year ago, there were so many posts on X by Elon about how they were going to scale Optimus so rapidly, and somebody posted a post where they had a 10x increase every year, and Elon said, "Not far off." It's like, really? I mean, what they're talking about now is very far off from that. So. Again, long-term bullish. I mean, long-term Tesla is going to make hundreds of millions, if not billions, of these things. It's the short term that's very fuzzy at this point. And of course, I don't think that they know either at this point, because they do have to build this whole supply chain up from scratch. And if every bot has 30 actuators, you need a lot of these things. And my understanding is there's some issues there right now with the supply chain and their capacity to build them.
Yep, that special screw, Herbert, you talk about. What's that called?
Planetary roller screw.
Yeah, I can't find any of those around my place either.
I think it was one on my shoulder.
Okay.
Awesome.
Last comments, guys.
But to your question, you said earlier is, how long will we not have any good news if that conspiracy theory is right? Well, if that conspiracy theory is right, we won't have any good news until the epoxy is out mid-September.
But prior to the actual November meeting, September.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Once it's out, it's out.
Yeah. Okay.
But
if your investment horizon is shorter than a few months, don't trade in securities. If your investment horizon is out 6 months, 12 months, 10 years, this conversation is more meaningful and valuable to you. I'm not concerned with what happens in the next quarter or 2 or 8. I'm looking at my retirement, and all of these things are still very bullish to me. I would invest in another company if I saw the same kind of potential that I see here, and maybe someday I will.
Yeah, the 7 big things I got real quick. Robotaxi, potential technically to serve half the US, 25 cents per mile. FSD coming to Europe, maybe not so fast, but China is imminent. Optimus will be the biggest product ever. AI5 is too good for export. Megapack, solar, energy, infinite demand, 31% margins, bonkers. New master plan coming is exciting. And if they execute, they'll be the biggest company in the world. Boom, that's it. 7 points.
That's it. Yep.
And they're all very good. And they were all hidden. And they were all said at a funeral. So,
and guys, if you're anywhere near the Bay Area this weekend, Friday night is the light show, Saturday is the big X takeover. There's going to be some huge names out there, some in this very chat, and raise your hand if you're going. Okay, yeah,
Brian, I was at Rohnert Park Pawn Shop over the weekend.
How funny!
So
Small
close to
world.
New York. Yeah, very cool.
And so, there's Sandy Monroe will be there, Lars Moravy, many others, Dr. Know-It-All. It's going to be a whole lot of fun. Join us if you can.
All right.
Awesome.
Thank you, everybody. Appreciate it. We had over 50,000 people watching us today in various channels. Follow the panel here. We got Alexander Mertz. We had Jeff Lutz and Larry Goldberg. We have CERN coming in late. We have Brian White from Futuraza and James Invest Answers. And then, of course, we have the hot mic, Nick Gibbs. Thanks, everybody.
And don't forget the Lutz.
Oh, yeah, I didn't know. I said him. I mentioned right at the top.
Oh, yeah. Jeff is all on the top.
Awesome.
Okay. See you guys.
Thanks,
Bye,
gang. Bye.
Bye-bye.